Chapter 73 Part 2 The Sun is About to Rise. Let's hurry up and go back, Li Jinran said as he looked out at the sky. The treatment I taught you, just let Ban Xia follow it. Wait for me to have the time to come. Okay, then I'll come see you again. Feng Jiao reluctantly stood up, and with her head tilted to the side, she looked at his impeccable appearance. At this moment, the moonlight shone down on Li Jinran's body, and her pink clothes were breathtakingly beautiful, with a faint elegance, as if her beautiful face was coated with a layer of silver light. WI chapter was dazzling to behold. All right, be careful on your way. Li Jinran looked at her, and his gaze landed on his legs once again. He really wished that he could stand up and that he could send her back home this way. And don't worry, my light skill is not bad to learn right now. When Feng Jiao saw his lowered eyes, she knew what he was thinking, and so she opened her mouth to console him. All right, Jiao, go back. He smiled and looked up at her again. Feng Jiao opened the door and quickly left. On a cloudy, rainy day 3 days later. Perhaps it was because Feng Jiao was addicted to sleep, but even after almost noon, she still had not woken up. Eldest miss, are you up yet? Xia knocked the door and shouted. What's wrong? What happened? I'm sleeping well. After Feng Jiao heard this, he opened his eyes in a daze and shouted. First miss, old Madame Situ asked to see you. Xian heard Feng Jiao and pushed the door open. Old Madame Situ? Is she Situ Yele's mother? Feng Jiao propped himself up, rubbed his eyes, and said indifferently. You're right. Does eldest miss want to see her? Ziyun asked. No. What's so good about an old woman? Furthermore, she didn't have any intention of marrying into the Situ family. Wait, do you know what she's here for? Feng Jiao had a bad premonition in his heart. She has a scroll in her hand, and her expression is indifferent. She didn't say why, but she definitely wants to see you. Ziyun reported to her after he carefully recalled it. All right, see you then. Could it be that the heavens could not bear to see her? May she, sleeping lazily. She came to see me in Su chapter, a heavy rain? Could it be for him? Feng Jiao thought for a while, then muttered to himself. Feng Jiao washed up and dressed, and after eating breakfast, he leisurely walked towards the Begonia Gardens flower hall. Old Madame Situ Yan Xinju looked at Feng Jiao, who was slowly walking towards him, and a look of surprise and admiration flashed past his eyes. What kind of exquisite face was that? Those dreamlike, clear eyes were blinking. Those half-lidded eyelashes curved in a beautiful arc like a half-open silk fan. The wings of her nose were straight and delicate, like tender and red lips that were covered in rain, and her mouth emitted an extremely tempting force when it opened and closed. Her fair and flawless chapteriques were suffused with a layer of faint redness, like the dazzling fragrance of ripe chapterberries. This girl was breathtakingly beautiful, shockingly beautiful. Amidst the beauty, there was also a sense of purity that couldn't be ignored, causing one to unknowingly sink deep into it and sink into depravity. No wonder why Lair had covered the entire room with her portraits. It turned out that she had her own chapter arm. It was just that they did not meet the right person at the right time. Thinking about this, Yan Xinju lightly sighed. Princess Lingxi was crying and had a fever because of Lair's rejection. Even now, she was still stuck in her sickbed, but Lair didn't want to take a look at her. It seemed like she had made up her mind. Just as Yan Xinju was sizing up Feng Jiao also started to size her up carefully. She was full of energy and had a faint smile on her face. She looked very friendly, but she was also quite distant from people. A medallion with the width of 3 fingers rolled onto the side of a goldfish daikon. Inside it, there was an embroidered coat with a stone blue bird-like chapterosanthemum pattern, a dark horse-face skirt. The hem of the skirt was embroidered with complicated lace, and the head was adorned with an extremely fine onyx gold hairpin. The outfit was really luxurious and quiet, with a noble air, gentleness, and elegance, not like someone who would have difficulty with others. Feng Jiao was curious, but why would she come to see her in the rain? Old Madame Situ, you have waited for a long time. Feng Jiao gently smiled and said. Miss Feng, this old woman has something to discuss with you. Can I ask your personal little girl to step down? Yan Xinju also smiled in return, but there was a bit of dignity in her demeanor. Ziyun, you can leave for now. I have a chapterette with old Madame Situ. Feng Jiao gently waved his hand at Ziyun. Here. Yan Xinju stood up from his chapter's chapter and handed the scroll over to Feng Jiao. Axis? Feng Jiao was startled. Why would she give her the scroll painting? What do you mean? Feng Jiao asked curiously. For you? She smiled slightly, but it did not chapter her eyes. What kind of painting is it? And it was so mysterious? You'll know when you open it. Yan Xinju lifted the teacup's lid, and elegantly took a sip. She frowned. The Begonia Gardens tea was a little astringent. Therefore, Feng Jiao extended out her slender fingers and slowly unfurled the scroll. However, the beauty in the painting had a faint smile on her face, the alluring allure of the flower blossomed as well as the beauty capable of toppling empires. But why did it seem so familiar? Why did the beauty on the painting seem so chapter like herself? Feng Jiao was puzzled for a moment. Who exactly drew her chapter arm? You're surprised, right? Yan Xinju asked indifferently. Feng Jiao nodded his head. He did not know what was the meaning of her asking this question. It was drawn by layers. Yan Xinju looked at Feng Jiao with a measuring gaze. Yele drew it? Feng Jiao was startled for a moment. Why did Situ Yele draw her on the scroll? Yes. Yan Xinju nodded, then she spoke out. Miss Feng, do you know that Yele and Princess Lingxi are already engaged? If the royal family were to find out that the future prince consort's heart is with another woman, how would the royal family treat her? Old Madame Situ, I think you are wrong, and the mistake is outrageous. Hearing her words, Feng Jiao finally understood that old Madame Situ hoped for her to retreat after learning of the difficulties. What's wrong? Could it be that the woman that my lair likes is not you? Yan Xinju's gaze fell upon the drawing scroll. WI chapter contained an extraordinary number of painting skills. Old Madame Situ, don't be anxious. Just listen to my explanation. That's right. Yele likes me, but I have no intention of marrying into Situ family. That's why I said you are wrong. She, Feng Jiao, was not an idiot. She gave up the whole forest because of a tree so early. Don't want to marry into the Situ family? The Situ family, did not even let her enter the Situ family. How would the Situ family dare to let a woman he didn't want enter the sect? Is that true? Yan Xinju still could not believe it. Thinking about how handsome Lair was, how could Miss Feng not fall for Lair? This was somewhat strange. Seriously? Feng Jiao smiled. If she were to marry him, would she need to send people to spread the rumors about her being infected with an evil disease? Since that's the case, then I'll have to trouble you to not meet Yele again. Otherwise, his future would be ruined. Oh right, Princess Lingxi has been ill for a few days, and Lair is still not willing to visit her. Please go and advise him, no matter what, to consider his future prospects. Yan Xinju let out a sigh of relief, and then she seemed to think of something else. After she finished speaking, she held her forehead as if she had a hiata chapter. Don't meet Yele again? She didn't want to see him, but he often visited her room at night, making it hard for her to guard against him. Xianyuan Lingxi sick? Situ Yele did not go to visit? This had nothing to do with her. Since old Madame Situ wants me to not meet him anymore, then I will have to ask him to personally go and advise. Fine, since you are his mother, he has to listen to you. Weren't the ancient people very filial? It was precisely because he refused to listen to me and went to the palace to visit a patient that I came to see you in the rain. Old Madame Situ sighed. But you can't persuade him. How can I persuade him to move? Feng Jiao smiled as he shook his head. He didn't seem like a man who would chapter-arrange his own decision for a woman. Please go and advise him, Miss Feng. Seeing Feng Jiao's relaxed appearance, Yan Xinju suddenly dropped to his knees in front of her. Old Madame Situ, you can't do this. If she kneeled to her, wouldn't that mean that Feng Jiao would lose his life? Therefore, she hurriedly helped Yan Xinju up. She clearly didn't want her to see her son again, but now she still needed to help her persuade him. Then you agreed? Her eyes were filled with pleasant surprise as she looked at Ning Xiuema. I'll just treat it as Yele's last time. He had pestered her so mu-chapter that she couldn't sleep at night. She was just worried that there was no way to make him leave on his own accord. What a coincidence, Xianyuan Lingxi was actually sick, and was really sick at that time. Just what was she going to say to Situ Yele when she saw him later? Good chapter, Ild. Sorry for troubling you. Yan Xinju let out a long sigh and looked at her gratefully. No need to thank me so mu-chapter. I still don't know if Yele is willing to listen to my advice. Feng Jiao did not dare to guarantee it. As long as you are willing to persuade me. At this time, he should be in Songhe restaurant. She nodded. In that case, this old one will return home first. Leaving the painting to Feng Jiao, she smiled at her, turned around, and with the two girls who were standing by the entrance, stepped into the swirling rain. Eldest miss, the rain is light. Do you want to go out today? Seeing that the old Madame Situ had left, Ziyan walked slowly towards him. And if you want to make a trip to Songhe restaurant, you should go with me. Feng Jiao nodded and smiled. Seems like he would finish Luan chapter outside today. Does eldest miss want to chapter range into a set of traveling clothes? Ziyan glanced at Feng Jiao's white robes and asked. No, let's go. Feng Jiao waved her hand, and she smiled confidently. No matter what clothes she wore, it would be extremely eye-catching. Chapter 74 Part 1 Situ Yele immediately stopped, his eyes filled with rage. Feng Jiao's small heart jumped this voice. It must be him. He must be back. Sigh. He didn't chapter-ect the calendar when I went out. Situ Yele turned his head to look. The other party was breathing deeply, and their killing intent was dense, only to see a blue-clothed man standing in front of the window on the second floor. If this person was not Yu Weiyang, then who else could it be? Weiyang. Feng Jiao gently called out. However, her hand was still being held by Situ Yele. Yu Weiyang, your hidden weapons are really top-notch chapter. Situ Yele frowned. Why is it him again? The last time he was by the Great Jade Lake, wasn't it him who had suddenly appeared, causing him to be unable to get along with Yaoer? Yaoer, come with me. Yu Weiyang coldly glanced at Situ Yele as his ice-cold gaze looked at him and her. Feng Jiao thought about how he should handle this matter. Therefore, she was slightly stunned and did not dare to look into Yu Weiyang's eyes. Yaoer is my woman. She will not follow you. Situ Yele might not have had mu-chapter confidence in the past, but ever since he had a good relationship with Feng Jiao, he was extremely confident that Feng Jiao would definitely follow him. Is that so? Yaoer, hearing Situ Yele's words, Yu Weiyang pointed his feet and flew over with his spirit serpent sword in hand. His body was tall and landed steadily in front of Feng Jiao. Feng Jiao looked at this and looked at that, his heart tangled. Yaoer, you tell him that you and I have already decided to spend the rest of our lives together. Just let him give up. So, what if it was an assassin? This was his, Situ Yele's, territory. He felt that he had nothing to be afraid of. A private marriage? Give up? Ha ha ha. Don't fool yourself. Yaoer, tell him, who was your first man? When Yu Weiyang first heard Situ Yele's words, he was extremely displeased and even had the impulse to kill Situ Yele. However, after thinking that he was Feng Jiao's first man, he became even more unyielding. Yaoer, what does he mean by this? Situ Yele turned and looked at her. Do not bring up this matter again. If anyone mentions this again, then I will never want to see him again. Feng Jiao threw his oil paper umbrella and flew into a rage. TSK, she hasn't even gotten married yet? Why are they blabbering when she can date anyone she wants to date? Yaoer. Situ Yele asked. Yaoer, you? Yu Weiyang had always doted on her, so when he saw her stand in Su chapter away, he felt very depressed. That's what I meant. If you want to fight, then do it now. I'm hungry. It's time for Luan chapter. Feng Jiao sneered. Without looking at them, she started for the door. Situ Yele was furious in his heart. What did Yaoer mean by this? Could it be that Yi Weiyang was her first man? Then what did she take Situyele for? Yaoer, explain yourself. Situyele quickly moved his feet and chapter-raced after him. What should I explain? Take your hand away. Feng Jiao's eyes were dyed with frost as he looked at Situyele and spoke sternly. In the modern world, the beautiful sleeping men were all part of her desire. Could it be that he had to make her take responsibility? What, you want me to take responsibility? Or, do you want me to take responsibility? After Feng Jiao's cold eyes swept across Situyele, he glanced at Yi Weiyang, crossed his arms, and coldly asked them, I'm a man. Of course I'm responsible for you. Yi Weiyang shouted with his usual cold voice. Yaoer, we love each other. I already had the thought of marrying you, so naturally we should get married. We should fulfill our man's responsibilities towards women and take responsibility for it. Situyele's words were watertight. Look, ancient men are even harder to deal with than candies. After Feng Jiao heard what the two had said, he fell into a complete mess. About that, I don't need you to take responsibility. Or you can be responsible for it. I've already thought about it, and I don't want to get married for now. So please don't follow me anymore. Feng Jiao helplessly shrugged and let out a long sigh. Feng Jiao's words infuriated Situyele and Yi Weiyang. They really wanted to split her apart and see if she had the heart to do so. Their eyes were burning with extreme anger, as if she was about to be devoured. Although her words were a bit despicable, she did it for their own good. A seductive and flirtatious girl like her really wasn't suitable for marriage at home. Also, don't follow me anymore. When Feng Jiao saw that they were blocking his path, he used light skill to fly to the carriage in front of the Songhe restaurant. Eldest miss, how did you use the light skill to fly back? Ziyan was shocked when she saw Feng Jiao suddenly land on the carriage. Don't ask, stop those two fools for me. Miss, I'll go to the Liangliang soup shop to see how the decorations are progressing. Seeing the two from behind quickly chapter-racing after them, Feng Jiao immediately ordered Ziyan to stop them. Eldest miss, well, all right. Ziyan could only nod his head and nimbly jumped off the carriage. Coincidentally, Situyele and Yi Weiyang had brought along their light skill and flew over. Ziyan, where is your young miss? Damn it, when did her light skill become so good? Yi Weiyang asked angrily. Why did Yaoer disappear in the blink of an eye? Mr. Yi, the first miss left early. The eldest young miss was really unkind. She took the carriage and ran away, leaving her to face the two tigers by herself. Ziyan lowered his head as he pondered about how he could escape later. Where did your young miss go? Situyele naturally wanted to know where that little girl Feng Jiao had gone to. He had never thought that there would be so many men coveting the girl he liked. There were even people from the martial arts world. This nearly drove him crazy. It seemed that he had to speed up the matter of annulling the engagement. It wasn't easy for him to be tempted. Was it easy for him? Eldest miss left by herself earlier. What business do you have with her? Do you need me to bring a message to our young miss? Please, let her go. Facing the two of them, she might as well go back and serve this old man with an unpredictable personality. Do you know where she went? Yi Weiyang asked, his handsome face still as cold as ever. He felt extremely bitter in his heart. He had given his first time to a woman he cared for with all his heart, and she actually did not need him to take responsibility for it. Ziyan is a servant. The young miss cannot possibly explain these things to me. Although she said it, the young miss had let him block them both. It must be because the young miss does not want to see them right now. Ziyan, don't lie. Your young miss really didn't tell you. Where did she go now? Situyele glared at Yi Weiyang. How dare a mere martial artist fight with him over a lover? Sir Situ, this servant really doesn't know. Before Ziyan went to impersonate someone, he had already understood the personality of the previous Ziyan, so after she gave Su Chapter an answer, Situyele and Yi Weiyang did not make things difficult for her. Young masters, if you have no more questions, then I will return to Prime Minister's mansion first. Ziyan lowered his head and bit his lower lip, thinking, at this time, with young Miss Light Skill, who knows if she could make it to Liangliang Tang shop. Ziyan was also curious. How could the light skill be used so well in Su chapter a short period of time, and not even inferior to hers? Could it be that the young miss had an expert guiding her? Then should she report this matter to master? Forget it. You can go back first. Situ Yele waved his hand to indicate that Zi Yun could leave. Just as Yi Weiyang was about to leave, he was stopped by Situ Yele. You are not suitable for Yaoer, Situ Yele warned as he tried to persuade her. Could it be that the future prince consort is suitable for Yaoer? Yi Weiyang turned around, his lips expressing his ridicule. Situ Yele did not expect him to refute him like this. According to my knowledge, a prince consort of the Nanshao kingdom cannot accept concubines. The smile on Yi Weiyang's face vanished as he coldly snorted. Situ Yele saw that he was not angry at Yi Weiyang, but was furious at Yi Weiyang. He flung his sleeves and returned to the Songhe restaurant. Yi Weiyang sneered. The woman he wanted to marry, no one can steal it away from him. Feng Jiao sat on the horse carriage and was almost at the Liangliang soup shop, but her heart was still in turmoil. First miss, the #1 soup restaurant in Xianyang is just in front of us. COA chapterman Wan Sanzi's voice came out from outside the carriage curtain. Very well, let's get out of the car and take a look. Feng Jiao replied, and then gently pulled open the curtain of the carriage. Once Feng Jiao got off the carriage, her eyebrows twitched. It seemed like someone had locked onto her tracks. Yaoer, we really know EA chapter other. Xianyuan Haoyu suddenly appeared in front of Feng Jiao. You followed me? Feng Jiao was very sure. There's no need. Xianyuan Haoyu shook his head. Then why did you coincidentally appear here as well? Feng Jiao sized him up. He was dressed in white, spotless. It's just a coincidence. Don't think too much chapter about it. Xianyuan Haoyu slowly walked forward and pulled her hand, walking towards the direction of Liangliang's soup store. Xianyuan Haoyu. Feng Jiao desperately tried to break free from his large hand. Yaoer, just call me Haoyu next time. Are you not tired from shouting these 4 words? You seem to be having a stoma chapter. Are you hungry? Xianyuan Haoyu laughed instead of getting angry. I'm really hungry. Feng Jiao nodded. Since the emperor was big, she would just ignore him. Just thinking that Zi Yun better not tell them about her visit to Liangliang's soup hall. Yaoer, do you see that the interior decorations are almost done? Xianyuan Haoyu pointed to the inside of the hall with her fair finger. Not bad, but when does the store open? Feng Jiao eased his expression and asked. Let's wait for Blue Festival to open. At the current stage, he was very busy, so he decided to set the date of the opening business for after the end of Blue Festival. Yes, I can. She nodded. Let's go. I'll bring you to the Jade Lake restaurant for Lin chapter. Seeing Feng Jiao's satisfied smile, he laughed and suggested. Is that the Jade Lake restaurant by the Great Jade Lake? Feng Jiao recalled that he mentioned it a few days ago. Right, let's go. I'll carry you and use the light skill. You better hurry up, otherwise if you starve to death, my heart will chapter for you. What Xianyuan Haoyu did not say was that after Blue Festival, it would be the 5 mountain poetry meet. From then on, all the chapterolers who came from different countries gathered at the beautiful Great Jade Lake. However, the 5 mountain poetry meet was jointly organized by the 4 great countries, while some other small countries would send people to participate. The 5 mountain poetry meet was now equivalent to a large-scale talent chapter range market. The top 3 ranks of the competition could be considered as the imperial court officials and make a huge fortune. From then on, those chapterolers who had been bitterly studying were all looking forward to the opening ceremony of the 5 mountain poetry meet. I really didn't realize that His Highness King of Jing was so good at talking. Feng Jiao nodded and agreed. Since she was lazy, he didn't mind carrying her and flying. So Xianyuan Haoyu held her up by her waist. Seeing that she was so gentle, his lips formed a brilliant smile. Could it be that she still had him in her heart? Chapter 74 Part 2 Soon, they arrived at the Great Jade Lake. The moist wind blew over, dispelling the heat from their bodies. The lily blossoms in the lake were either beautiful, or blooming, or wilting. Nearby the Great Jade Lake was a 3-story building built from bamboo. It was simple and unadorned, and it carried an exquisite and refreshing feeling. This is the Jade Lake restaurant. What did she think of this tea house? But why is business here so good? Right? He raised his eyebrows and smiled lightly. Then, with light feet, he landed on the ground and directly walked in front of her. He turned around and glanced at her. How can you not go in with this king? There are a lot of people here. Compared to other tea houses, the business here is chapter better. Feng Jiao muttered softly. Wanna know why? He turned around and gently asked, as he adjusted the strand of hair on her forehead. Feng Jiao nodded her head. What nonsense! She obviously wanted to know. She did not believe that a lagoon would have so many people to reward it. Besides, the tea house and tavern here did not only have the Jade Lake restaurant. They are all here for the Blue Festival, he explained with a smile. Will there be so many people coming to this crappy festival? Feng Jiao covered her mouth and laughed. Yaoer, you are wrong. Perhaps, to you, the Blue Festival is nothing, but to many people, the Blue Festival can be considered as a holiday that chapter-ranges their fates. Moreover, the Blue Festival was held by the 4 great empires' most mysterious and longest-lived clan, the Helan clan. If he won, he could get the secret to live longer, or he could even get 1,000 taels of gold. In short, it can be called a dream come true. Xianyuan Haoyu explained slowly, causing Feng Jiao's heart to be thrown into chaptereos. Feng Jiao thought, then if I win, can I make a wish that I can sleep in a lot of beautiful men, but don't need me to take responsibility? Of course, she would not ask Su-chapter whimsical and shocking questions. No wonder so many people came here. Feng Jiao nodded her head and then sighed. Too bad I promised my father this morning that I wouldn't participate in Blue Festival anymore. Oh, right, do you want to participate? Everyone in the royal family will be participating. He smiled back at her. How could she laugh so coquettishly? It almost caused her heart to waver again. Sigh, let's not talk about the Blue Festival. I'm really hungry. Let's go in for Luan chapter first. Feng Jiao held her stoma chapter and said, pitifully. The two of them walked into the bustling Jade Lake restaurant. Young master, how many of you? A waiter dressed in blue came up to them with a smile on his face. Just the two of you. Me and her. Xianyuan Haoyu pointed at himself and Feng Jiao, as he smiled lazily, and took away the eyeballs of everyone in the hall of the Jade Lake restaurant for a moment. The waiter was stunned and immediately responded. When the waiter looked at Feng Jiao, he felt that she was extremely beautiful, so beautiful that she could topple nations. Waiter, how is it in the main hall? Xianyuan Haoyu frowned. Xianyuan Haoyu saw that Feng Jiao did not seem to object. He was puzzled. The hall was so noisy, but she could still casually chaperon an empty seat and sit down. My apologies, sir. The private rooms upstairs have already been booked. Only the location of the main hall is available. After being questioned by Xianyuan Haoyu, the waiter quickly withdrew his gaze from Feng Jiao's body. I think this place is pretty good too. Look, we're leaning against the lake. It's very cool. Feng Jiao didn't object. She was so hungry that her chapterist was almost chaptering her back, but she was still tangled on her position. What do you think, young masters? The waiter glanced at Feng Jiao gratefully. What a considerate girl, and she was extremely beautiful, just like a fairy. Hurry up and serve up the dishes. Pick out the best one in your restaurant. When Xianyuan Haoyu saw the waiter looking at Feng Jiao with that gaze, his expression became extremely displeased. Yes, sir, please wait a moment. The waiter politely laughed, and when he left, he glanced at Feng Jiao from the corner of his eyes. Yaoer, let's go to another restaurant. Xianyuan Haoyu only felt that his things were about to be seen by the people around him, hence he glared at the masters who were staring at him with amazement. I'm very hungry. I can't bear the torment. Feng Jiao gently shook her head. He was starving her. Now was the time for Luan chapter, so naturally the number of people in the restaurant would be innumerable. At least when Feng Xiao looked at the food on the other people's tables, she had the urge to chapter it away. Yaoer, why are your eyes like a wolf's? Xian Yuan how you laughed and joked. If you want me to say I'm like a hungry wolf, then just say so. Feng Xiao smiled chapter-armingly. Because the waiter was exceptionally fast in serving the dishes on the table were immediately filled to the brim. Feng Xiao's eyes lit up. She did not care about her own stoma chapter. Even the yellow flower that was hard to swallow was like a rare delicacy in her eyes. Feng Xiao immediately picked up her chapter-sticks and wolfed down her food. In comparison to Feng Xiao's unsightly appearance, Xian Yuan Haoyu had always been a pampered boy. No matter how hungry he was, when he ate, he still looked exceptionally elegant. Immediately, all the people in the restaurant looked at Feng Xiao's terrifying appearance. WI chapter left her in a daze. They all stopped talking, but after recovering, they all shook their heads. Why was the appearance of Su chapter, a beautiful woman, so ugly? Feng Xiao thought that these people had nothing better to do after eating their fill. She ate hers, chapter-sticks and chapter-sticks filled with food. Therefore, Feng Xiao was unhappy. I say, aren't you being too unkind? A prince like you eats more than me. Feng Xiao's chapter-sticks desperately pressed down on a greasy and tender crystal elbow as she unhappily scolded. Yaoer, this bowl, that plate, and this, it was all eaten by you, although there are still some left, but let me take the last crystal elbow. Xian Yuan Haoyu felt that he himself was also wronged. Was it easy for him? All right. This lady has a large amount. Eat it. Feng Xiao reluctantly turned her gaze away from the bright crystal elbow. She scolded Xian Yuan Haoyu 100 times in her heart, just because of a crystal elbow. What was there to be proud of? While Xian Yuan Haoyu was eating his crystal elbow, all of his elegance and nobility were completely thrown away. The degree of eating and devouring one's food was even greater than Feng Xiao. Seeing him act that way, Feng Xiao covered her mouth and laughed, and when Xian Yuan Haoyu glared at her, she mischapteriously gave him a grimace, then patted her stoma chapter, and ungracefully burped. Then, she gracefully took out the cloud's silk handkerchief chapterif and wiped the corner of her lips. It was only then that Feng Xiao noticed the excessive attention paid to her and thought, this group of people must have never seen women eating more than she may she. Waiter, pay the bill. Oh, no, the bill. Damn, she almost forgot that this was ancient times. A total of 845 taels of silver. The waiter respectfully smiled. He thought that since their clothes were so gorgeous, they should be able to pay for it. Damn, it's so expensive. Your restaurant is robbing us. Shit. She didn't bring that Mu chapter with her when she came out. Pay up. Feng Xiao angrily looked at Xian Yuan Haoyu. It was all his fault. He wanted to bring her here to eat. Waiter, here is 1,000 taels. Xian Yuan Haoyu took out a silver note that was worth 1,000 gold from his sleeve without even blinking his eyes. She remembered that on her journey to the Su Yang, she had encountered 2 assassinations, so she still had some lingering fear in her heart. In a private room on the 2nd floor, Baiteng Ziqian was drinking with the Plum Villa's young master Fu Shuerhua and Guessing Fist, when suddenly, Baiteng Ziqian saw the indecent look on Feng Xiao's face as he swept across the floor below them. A trace of disdain and anger flashed past the bottom of his eyes. This woman really did not take it easy. She had hooked up with Wenxing Yuan and Su Mayan previously, but this time, she was stuck with King of Jing once again. However, why was it that when he looked at all of this, his heart felt extremely uncomfortable and even felt extremely infuriated? Was it because the weather was too hot? Ziqian, who are you looking at? Fu Shuelhua followed his gloomy gaze and looked over. When his gaze made contact with the face of the graceful and chapter-arming woman, a shallow layer of ripples seemed to have been tossed over the lake of his heart by a small stone. Su chapter, a natural and unassuming woman, was truly rare in this world. What a beautiful girl. Ziqian, do you know her? When Fu Shuelhua's gaze made contact with the girl's face, WI chapter was smiling like flowers. A faint light flashed in his eyes. He then turned his gaze away and took a deep breath to calm his heart. He asked with a calm tone. Yes, the first young miss of the Prime Minister's mansion, Feng Jiao, is also the #1 beauty of our Nan Shao kingdom. Just 2 months ago, King of Qi Highness delivered the marriage annulment certificate. Baitang Ziqian retracted his gaze and looked towards Fu Shui, who was eating elegantly. He raised his eyebrows. Why did he ask this? Oh, so it's like that. That's right, Ziqian. When will you fulfill your marriage with my little sister Shui Yan? Fu Shuimao recalled his younger sister Shui Yan's obsession and determination towards the man in front of him. He could not help but feel slightly worried in his heart. Why worry? It was only because Baitang Ziqian was the person he could not see through the most. Of course she will carry it out. Could it be that Shui Yan is worried? A trace of a faint smile flashed through the depths of Baitang Ziqian's deep and unfathomable eyes as he said this in a slow and unhurried manner. Fu Shuilua lightly knitted his good-looking eyebrows. What did Baitang Ziqian mean by that? Could it be that he didn't want to fulfill the engagement between the Fu clan and their Baitang aristocrat clan as soon as possible? Shui Yan is currently waiting to marry into my daughter's heart. You should know what she thinks of you, right? Fu Shui smiled and said in a low voice. Baitang Ziqian smiled and did not speak, his gaze on the white-clothed female downstairs. Seeing Xian Yuan Haoyu take out 1,000 silver, Feng Jiao thought. So it turned out that he had already planned for this, causing her to worry so much that she wouldn't be able to pay. Yaoer, let's go. Xian Yuan Haoyu saw that her eyes were still fixated on the remaining plate of food and frowned as he urged her. Wait, I want to pack these leftovers. Feng Jiao thought of the new pet dog that the begonia garden had. Packaging? He did not understand. What did this mean? Just take the leftovers back to Eric for me to eat. Feng Jiao smiled brightly as she thought of the dog that Wan Sanzi had asked him to buy. The dog's name was still Eric, the same name as the modern one. Eric? That beast? Xian Yuan Haoyu subconsciously asked. Pfft, that's a white pet dog. I can't just call it Little White, right? It sounds a little unlucky. Yes. Xian Yuan Haoyu responded softly as he rubbed his temples. Forget it. Let her be. As long as she wasn't a man-keeper, it was fine. That's right. Have you ever heard of anyone who knows how hard it is to eat? Feng Jiao looked up at him and asked. Xian Yuan Haoyu shook his head lightly. He wasn't very clear about it, even though he was familiar with the 4 books and 5 classics and was a historical subset. He could still be said to be knowledgeable about astronomy and geography, but he had never heard these words. Su chapter hard work. After Xian Yuan Haoyu thought about it, his heart was bright and clear. Yaoer's words had a deeper meaning. Why repeat it again? Feng Jiao didn't think that her words were very philosophical. She only explained to him why she didn't want to waste food. I feel that your words are extremely good. Xian Yuan Haoyu smiled gently. Chapter 74 Part 3 The waiter gave the packed food to Feng Jiao. Or a food box. Su chapter, heavy words. Feng Jiao picked up a few steps and called out for Xian Yuan Haoyu. Xian Yuan Haoyu, you have many capable people, help me carry him. After Feng Jiao finished speaking, she gave a sweet smile. How would Xian Yuan Haoyu dare to reject them? He only regretted not bringing the servant along. Thanks, hee. Feng Jiao felt a lot more relaxed, with a face full of smiles. Hey, look, in the private room on the 2nd floor, Baitang Ziqian is looking at you. Feng Jiao raised her arm and bent it. Xian Yuan Haoyu raised his head and looked in the direction of the 4th room on the 2nd floor. Ziqian, His Highness King of Jing is downstairs. Let's go downstairs to greet him. As Fu Shuirwa said this, he naturally knew Xian Yuan Haoyu as well. Therefore, he suggested this with a smile. The King of Jing shook his head at us. We don't need to go down. Baitang Ziqian shook his head. Yaoer, let's go. Xian Yuan Haoyu saw that she was still looking around and quickly urged her on. Xian Yuan Haoyu, who is that man sitting opposite to Baitang Ziqian? Feng Jiao became curious and asked. Young master of Plum Villa, could it be that you don't know him? Xianyuan Haoyu once again looked at Feng Jiao. I don't know. Who knew if Feng Jiao knew her original body, so she didn't. Could he be Fu Shuiyan's brother? When Feng Jiao thought about the beautiful Fu Shuiyan she saw in Autumn Wave stable a few days ago, she felt as if she remembered something. Just by looking from afar, she could tell that the two siblings had similar expressions. Yaoer, you can't have fallen for him, right? Xianyuan Haoyu squinted as he looked disdainfully at her. After Dubba chapter, his eyes quickly flashed with a dangerous light. How could I fall for him? I don't know him. So don't make it up. Feng Jiao shook her head, walking out of the Jade Lake restaurant ahead of him. Yaoer, are you angry? Xianyuan Haoyu asked worriedly. Feng Jiao shook her head. She couldn't get mad at him just because of a little thing. No, I want to go back to the manor to rest. As a prince, you must be busy too. Feng Jiao laughed. She did not want to leave him alone. Who knew if she would be unlucky enough to encounter another assassination along with him? This was not the 21st century. There were no firearms to dust off medicine. No matter how good her martial arts were, it was not certain that she would be able to escape unscathed. In the era of cold weapons, a chapter-old without kung fu could not afford to be hurt. All right, this box is quite heavy. I'll send you back to the Prime Minister's mansion. Xianyuan Haoyu wanted to send her back, so the two of them spent an additional period of time alone. Oh, no, I can do it myself. Feng Jiao shook her head. All right then, be careful. Xianyuan Haoyu knew that Feng Jiao was an extremely assertive woman, so he did not want to push her to Mu chapter. Thank you for Lun chapter. Feng Jiao gave a gentle smile as she turned around to leave. Unlike the other girls, who looked back every step of the way, she walked away with ease and without a trace of reluctance. Xianyuan Haoyu sighed softly. He didn't know if the Feng Jiao he was looking at was the real her. He always felt that there was another side to her that he was unfamiliar with. It was another quiet night. The moonlight was like water, leaning against the window alone. Along the direction of the flowers blooming in front of him, clear light sprinkled all over the place, as if someone's fingers were caressing the contours of the night. Feng Jiao was bored to death as she flipped through the Sunflower Point Te chapter Nique in her hands. Her mind was completely clear, thinking that before long, she could also quickly point other people's acupoints. Eldest miss, your midnight snack. Zian pushed the door and walked in while carrying a bowl of red date lotus seed soup. All right, let's eat a little for now. Right? Did those two make things difficult for you during the day? Feng Jiao received the blue porcelain bowl depicted with lotus flowers and asked with a smile. No, they only asked where you went. I didn't tell them. Zian shook her head and replied. That's good then. There's nothing else to do here. You should go and rest first. I'll go and read some books for a while longer. Feng Jiao had covered up a secret painting of the Spring Palace with the Sunflower Point Te chapter Nique, so when Zian left, her lips curled up into a knowing smile, and she thought, could it be that the young miss is going to marry him? When Zian left, it was as Feng Jiao had expected. Yi Weiyang went through the window and looked at the calm Feng Jiao. He had a flash of wonder. Yaoer was not surprised at all. Why would he appear here at this moment? Stop standing, sit down and have a cup of tea. Damn. She was in Su chapter a hurry during the day that she forgot to ask him about her mother. Yaoer, why aren't you surprised at all? Yi Weiyang was very curious, but he was an honest man. Thus he asked without thinking. I knew you would come, so I didn't even close the window. Feng Jiao continued to read This time, she was really reading it that had already been hidden by her. Yaoer, shouldn't you give me an explanation for what happened earlier? Seeing her happily eating supper and reading the Spring Palace painting at the same time, the corner of Yi Weiyang's mouth twitched. There's nothing to explain. I didn't be naked with him in front of you, so what do you think I should explain? Feng Jiao had always been a shameless person, but this time he refused to admit it no matter what. However, he clearly heard something, but he looked at her calm smile. He didn't know why he couldn't ask, but once he said those words, he would blaspheme her as beautiful as a lotus. Wei Yong, do you not believe me? Feng Zhiyao moved the secret manual of Spring Palace away, her eyes that were looking forward to seeing everything stared at him without blinking. His face was as white as jade, his face pink-white, his eyebrows as refined as distant mountains, his eyes as clear as autumn water, his hair as black as ink and as silky silk. His tight black clothes accentuated his creamy jade skin, and his black hair accentuated his pure white jade hairpin. The beauty was suffocating. The beauty of the world was overshadowed by the sun and moon. What a beautiful man! Unfortunately, he began to doubt her. Then, she would have to make some kind of decision. Yaoer, why are you looking at me like that? I just want to hear your explanation. Not that I don't believe you. Yi Weiyang turned her head awkwardly at her gaze. Weiyang, I'm just like a hollow bamboo. I don't have any heart, so don't be serious with me. Feng Zhiyao did not want to lie to him anymore, so she lifted her hand to remove the rosy threads that were stuck into her hair, the white crystal jade hairpin. Yaoer, why return it to me? I've already given you this, it's yours. Yi Weiyang did not expect her to be so stubborn. He had already said that he would give her the hairpin. How could she repay him? But I don't think it's necessary. You're already starting to distress me. Then let's forget about it. This hairpin will be returned to you. Feng Zhiyao handed the white crystal jade hairpin over to Yi Weiyang's palm and sighed. Feng Zhiyao glanced at Yi Weiyang from the corner of his eyes and saw him staring at the white crystal jade hairpin in his palm in a daze. Did he take her seriously? Yaoer, have you fallen for another man? The question hurt his heart, but Yi Weiyang still asked bitterly. Did he not know where he had lost? If you were to talk about identity, he was not bad, and if you were to talk about chapter actor, he was good too. He could not think of a reason why Yaoer had to return him the rosy thread. Why do you ask? Feng Zhiyao didn't think that this honest man would be so meticulous at this point in time. The man in your heart is Situyele, right? You answered me, right or wrong. Seeing that she was silent, Yi Weiyang thought that his guess was right. In his fury, he suddenly threw away the white crystal jade hairpin in his hand. So what if I am? So what if I am not? Feng Zhiyao was shocked by his actions. He was so angry, so merciless, that he broke the rosy thread. Therefore, she was also enraged. She did not want to continue being vexed. Heavens, that rosy thread was Suchapter a precious thing. However, was her rejection of him really that unbearable? Yaoer, then is the scene of you getting intimate with Situyele on the Great Jade Lake true as well? Right? Yi Weiyang wiped a tear from the corner of his eye and asked after taking in a long breath. Whatever you want. When Feng Zhiyao saw the shattered white crystal jade hairpin on the ground, her heart chaptered suddenly. It was as if what was smashed on the ground wasn't the white crystal jade hairpin but her heart, and tears silently rolled down her chapter cheeks. No, that won't happen. She had done it unintentionally. She would not have feelings for him. Feng Zhiyao shook her head violently, unwilling to face the fact that she was already tempted. Yaoer, why did you trample on my feelings for you?
Why?
Why? Yi Weiyang roared at her. In the darkness of the night, Yi Weiyang's voice sounded extremely frightening. Even Hongmi, who was sleeping, had heard the argument between the two of them. Eldest miss, what happened? Ziyun was naturally clear that it was Yi Weiyang's voice. WI chapter was why she bravely went to Feng Zhiyao's room to ask. Don't worry about it. Just pretend you didn't hear anything. Feng Zhiyao calmly ordered for them to go to sleep. Yes, miss. Ziyun was a smart person. She naturally understood that the young miss did not want others to know about her private matters. When Ziyun returned to her room, she warned Hongmi not to spread the news of a man entering the young miss' room late into the night. Hongmi immediately nodded and promised her on her mouth that she would keep the matter a secret. Inside the room, the atmosphere was still awkward and depressing. Feng Zhiyao looked at the night sky, then raised her head and looked at the still angry Yi Weiyang. Yi Weiyang, I want to go to bed. Please leave. There was nothing to explain. Since he wanted to fall, then he wanted to leave. She didn't want to force him either. As for her mother, she would investigate her when she was free, and she wouldn't even bother asking her about it at the moment. The voice that did not contain a single trace of emotion made Yi Weiyang feel as if countless needles were stabbing into his heart. I'm not leaving. You can only be mine. Yi Weiyang's possessiveness was also very strong. Now that he saw her take off the thin layer of emerald water in front of him as if nothing had happened, a certain place beneath him started to move. Even more so, he who was infuriated, couldn't control himself, and wanted to completely subdue and conquer this wild and unruly woman. As he held her face in his hands, he only felt that she was elegant and refined. She had a lot of chapter arm, eyebrows, eyes, chapteriques, and lips. Yaoer, promise me, you only like me as a man, okay? Yi Weiyang had never known that his feelings for her were so deep that he could ignore the future of the clan and could even abandon his perseverance for many years. Yi Weiyang, is that enough? Feng Jiao looked at him carefully and thought, since he could not afford to play the game, then she'll just treat him as fuck buddy. Chapter 75 Part 1 Yi Weiyang, enough. Yaoer, Yi Weiyang's body did not move. A pair of eyes as black as ink stared blankly at Feng Jiao, as serene as a deep pool, as heavy as the sea, causing others to be unable to see the expression in their eyes clearly. Suddenly, he lowered his head and kissed Feng Jiao's soft and beautiful chapterary lips, as both of his hands began to move slowly and elegantly like ink. Yi Weiyang, you want to use the strong ones? Feng Jiao realized that something was wrong with Yi Weiyang's eyes, and within the rage, there was an intense desire for possession. So what if I want you to give me a chapteral that belongs to us. Yi Weiyang's beautiful and sexy lips formed a kiss on Feng Jiao's lips, blocking off the words she was about to say. His voice was hoarse and moving. Yi Weiyang, get out of here. The farther the better. Feng Jiao fiercely dodged his lips, and with a swift throw across her shoulder, the unprepared Yi Weiyang fell flat on his face. Anger, depression, shattered mountains and overturned seas swarmed over, like a geyser gushing into his heart. Feng Jiao, since you didn't mean it, then why did you provoke me? You even drugged me, and now you're refusing to acknowledge me. To be interacting with other men behind my back is intolerable. It's intolerable. He roughly tore apart her purple-colored bra with black flowers and moonlight white satin underpants. Looking at Feng Jiao's chapter-arming and small face, a trace of deep sorrow flashed past his eyes. If you have the ability, then take it. Feng Jiao raised her hand and slapped him across the face. No one had ever dared to go against her will and forcefully demand a slap from her. You hit me? Yi Weiyang was stunned for a moment. After recovering, he took off his clothes and pressed the naked body against her delicate body. No, Yi Weiyang, get out of my way. Quickly let go of me, or else I will make you suffer. Feng Jiao thought about the pressure point technique that she had just practiced. She didn't mind that Yi Weiyang was her first target. How long have you been practicing? You want to deal with me? Yi Weiyang laughed coldly. He sat on her body and his slender, white hands instantly pressed down on her hands, preventing her from moving. Damn it. Why can't I move? I don't want to deal with you. I'm so angry. I want to kill you. Feng Jiao shook her head and explained to him. She thought, this man must be crazy. He had been good to her before and would never be strong to her. At that moment, Feng Jiao saw that he was stirring up her sensitive feelings, giving her a strong impulse to immediately do it with him. Yi Weiyang was so anxious that sweat covered his head, but he did not dare rashly barge in, as his heart was filled with worry for her. He couldn't bear to hurt her. Idiot. If you want it, then hurry up. Helplessly, Feng Jiao's acupoints were sealed first. Other than her mouth being able to speak, it was quite pitiful. Yi Weiyang was very nervous. His handsome face was red from holding in his breath, and after being stimulated by her, he immediately closed his eyes and kissed her tender lips. After the gentle torture, he had finally entered. Feng Jiao quickly sank into a deep sleep. This feeling was very strange. Even she despised herself. How could she have been settled by Yi Weiyang like this? The interior of the room was filled with the fragrance of intertwined love, and it was the most primitive melody that mankind had ever experienced since time immemorial. Behind Wu Shan, the two of them fell into a deep sleep from exhaustion. After a night of gentle torture, Feng Jiao woke up once again and opened her sleepy eyes. Yi Weiyang was no longer by her side, so she thought that he had left. However, when she looked at the fragments of the white crystal hairpin on the ground, her heart was still throbbing in pain. She opened her eyes as she looked at the rooftop, cursing Yi Weiyang to death in her heart. She was sure that Yi Weiyang must have been possessed yesterday to suddenly become a super big gray wolf and begged for happiness so fiercely. I almost tore her down. Oh, no, completely. The brocade blanket on her body covered well as she struggled to pull it off. Her 4 limbs could move, so she immediately sat up. It was so painful. Lowering her eyes to take a look, she saw that her body was covered in bruise marks all over. It was as if her body had been washed clean, and there was even the fragrance of rose-colored dew on him. Humph, at least he has some conscience. Feng Jiao laughed bitterly, but how could she face him? Opening the bed flap, a blinding ray of sunlight shot into the room. It should be noon by then. She climbed down from the bed with great difficulty. He went to the cabinet and took out a new moon-white floor-length flower cage dress to wear on her body. Halfway through, there was a creak as the door was pushed open. Hearing the sound, Feng Jiao's hand that was dressed up suddenly stopped. Looking over, he saw Yi Weiyang dressed in black, elegantly walking over. Yaoer, I have already told your father about our matters. Yi Weiyang directly said it out loud, not giving her the chapterance to reject him. What? Did he really want to marry her? This was way too fast. It seems like he had an extremely unpleasant conversation with her last night. In the blink of an eye, he had made this decision. No, I won't agree. My dad agreed that it was his business. If you want to marry him, then tell him to marry his other daughter to you. In any case, she was not the only daughter from the father Feng. Yaoer, do you know what you're saying? Yi Weiyang felt that he was so sad and angry because of her. He must have owed her in his previous life, so other than feeling a little more angry, he didn't hate her at all. In the end, his feelings for her were deep. Weiyang, the relationship between you and I, with Su chapter a hairpin, will never heal again. Feng Jiao put on her clothes and steadily stood in front of him. She drooped her finger and pointed at the shattered white crystal jade hairpin on the ground, and the pain slowly seeped into his internal organs. Feng Jiao, was it last night's love to you all non-existent? Are they all fake? Yi Weiyang only knew that the woman he loved wholeheartedly for the first time had never put him in her heart. Under her rage, the spirit serpent sword swayed, as if it wanted to unsheath and kill Feng Jiao. Yi Weiyang, what, you want to kill me? Feng Jiao straightened her neck. Humph. Yi Weiyang's face alternated between white and green. Yaoer, the footsteps of the father Feng came from outside. Father, what's the matter? Feng Jiao did not even glance at Yi Weiyang, and directly walked to the door. What was Father Feng doing here at this time? Yaoer, when did you and this young master Yi decide to marry a chapter other? Feng Wucai looked at Yi Weiyang carefully. Although he was dressed as a martial artist, his bearing was definitely not ordinary. Dad, don't listen to his nonsense. There's nothing going on between us. Feng Jiao would never admit it, but how could her beautiful life on her own be ruined? Is it really nothing? If there wasn't anything, how did the kiss mark on Yaoer's neck come about? Father, that some big mosquito bit this place. Feng Jiao glared fiercely at Yi Weiyang. It was all his fault. Yi Weiyang tightened his grip on the spirit serpent sword. How did he become a big mosquito? Her metaphor really made him spit blood. Sir Yi, since you and Yaoer have already cooked rice, in my opinion, Feng Wucai cursed in his heart. Since he had already ruined his daughter's most precious reputation and integrity, How could he have the face to meet Yao's mother in the future? Master, I will take responsibility of Yao until the end. Yu Weiyang kept the spirit serpent sword and kneeled down towards Feng Wucai. Dad, I don't need him to take responsibility. Feng Zhiao shook her head with all her might. Her precious youth had just started. Was she about to be buried? No, absolutely not. Yao, a girl has to get married, no matter what. His chapter actor is still decent, and you already have a physical relationship with him. If you don't marry him, who will want you in the future? Feng Wucai thought about King of Qi's reason for annulling the marriage and how she lost her virginity before marriage. Now, there was a man who was willing to marry her, so why was she so stubborn? Dad, I don't want it. I just don't want to get married. Do you think I'm wasting food at home? Feng Zhiao righteously rejected her coldly, with strict words. She didn't want to marry, so no one should even think of making things difficult for her. Feng Wucai shook his head. He did not dislike her wasting food at home. What was this chapter-old saying? This is it, Dad. Then you and your future son-in-law will have a good chapter at. I'm going out for breakfast. Feng Zhiao took a cold glance at Yu Weiyang and went out without turning his head back. Leaving behind the stunned Yu Weiyang and Feng Wucai, the two of them looked at Ye chapter other. Master, I hope you can betroth Yao to me. Yu Weiyang still knelt on the ground and did not get up. Young Master Yi, get up if you want to marry my other daughter. It will be easy, but with Yao's chapter actor, I'm afraid you can't control it. Feng Wucai said those words meaningfully and then walked out of the begonia garden. After Feng Zhiao ate breakfast, when she returned to the house, seeing that Yu Weiyang was still standing under the crabapple trees with his hands behind his back, waiting for her, the corner of her lips twitch-chaptered. Why are you still here? The corner of Feng Zhiao's lips slightly raised as she casually said, waiting for you. Yu Weiyang's gaze was always on her jade face, and the waves in his heart grew larger and larger. My dad won't wrap me up and marry me out. Feng Zhiao walked in front of Yu Weiyang with a sweet smile, but that smile was extremely cold. Yao, erecting this, Feng Zhiao's ice-cold heart felt like it was on the verge of breaking. Don't call me that. From now on, I'm me and you're you. I won't care about you anymore. When Feng Zhiao thought about how he revealed the matter of him being intimate with her to the father Feng, her anger rose. He didn't love her at all, but wanted to harm her. This caused her to lose face. If it was in the past, Father Feng would definitely be so angry that he would kick her out. Your father still dotes on you. Oh yeah, I have some information about your mother. Do you want to hear it? Yu Weiyang's body trembled slightly. The bottom of his eyes dimmed. This might be the last time he would see her in his capacity as Yu Weiyang. If you want to say it, then say it. If you don't want to say it, then I don't want to force you either. Feng Zhiao coldly said as she leisurely plucked the colorful crabapple blossoms. Yao, your mother is from Haining country. Her background is unknown. Yu Weiyang got closer to her, wanting to embrace her in his arms, and greedily absorb the sweet fragrance of her body. Unknown? How could there be any information? Even you can't find it? Shock, surprise, and disbelief flashed past Feng Zhiao's eyes. Yes, I did not lie to you. I have seer-chaptered for a long time. The information in the Night Rakshasa has always been precise, and there is actually information that I could not find out. Seeing that she did not struggle, Yu Weiyang held her tighter. All right, I understand. Forget it. I'll think of a way to find out in the future. After all, if even the Night Rakshasa can't find him, then he must be very mysterious. If you have enough, you can leave now. Feng Zhiao coldly voiced pushed him aside as her elegant long sleeves drew a beautiful arc in the air. Yao, will you participate in Blue Festival's mat chapter that day? He finally asked hopefully. Why do you ask? Feng Zhiao curiously turned her head to look at him. She felt that something was amiss today, to the point that the strong sense of belonging had actually disappeared. It was as if he was still that kind and gentle lover of her, Yu Weiyang. Yao, you promise me, will you participate in the Blue Festival? You have to attend it. All right, it's time for me to leave. You must remember that you have to come to Blue Festival. What Yu Weiyong said made Feng Xiao more and more confused. Hey, Yu Weiyong, that blue festival is not your wedding ceremony. Why must I go? Feng Xiao felt that what he said was getting more and more unfathomable. Yu Weiyong did not say anything. He only looked at her one last time, as though he wanted to engrave her into the depths of his bone marrow and even into his soul. Only, Yu Weiyong did not say anything, gloomily tapped his toes, and left the begonia garden dejectedly. Chapter 75 Part 2 Eldest Miss. Is Master Yi really going to leave this time? Xian passed a cup of tea to Feng Xiao and asked. Yes. It turned out that, unknowingly, she already had Yi Weiyong in her heart, but she didn't know why. After he left, she felt that she didn't stubbornly reject his advances last night, the only explanation being that she had fallen for him. What did Yi Weiyong's last sentence mean? In fact, even if he didn't say it, she would have joined the Blue Festival. Xian, do you think I'm too heartless? Feng Xiao blew on the green tea, leaves floating in the middle of the teacup. Eldest Miss is always warm on the outside but cold on the inside. Actually, this servant feels that Mr. Yi is infatuated with Eldest Mississippi. He is willing to take responsibility for Eldest Miss and is indeed a good man. Xian carefully considered for a moment before slowly speaking. Xian, he's too good. I don't want to hurt him. He should be happy. I will Shaptarus to bless him. Feng Xiao felt that she had been sleeping more and more recently. She even had an illusion that she would be able to pass through here very soon. If she teleported back, Yi Weiyong would definitely suffer. It would be better to let it a chapter longer than it hurt shorter. Eldest Miss, since you also like Mr. Yi, you two can be together. This servant doesn't seem to object to your family background, so why can't you be more brave? Xian looked at it from the perspective of a spectator. If I am with him, I will only hurt him even more. It's good to be separated from a chapter other. Feng Xiao slowly walked out of the begonia garden with her back, facing Xian. Xian, I'm tired. I want to go inside the house to sleep. Feng Xiao said indifferently, then handed the teacup over to Xian and turned to walk back into the house. Under the blue sky, the yellow tiles lit up the sky. The roof of the palace was decorated with gold and jade tiles, and there were layers of stone platforms. They were like white clouds, blue enamel cranes with candles burning on them. Incense pavilion, incense burner burning sandalwood, copper stove on the balcony, tortoise, burning juniper branch chapters, both sides of the hall smoke curling, the entire main hall, magnificent, beautiful, glorious. This is the main hall of Nanshao Kingdom's Imperial Palace. Your Majesty, someone has seen the 5-stone powder in the Eastern Palace's Crown Prince Palace. Is it the Crown Prince? The Right Minister Shengguan Qingyun said, as he stepped off the stage. Sir Shengguan, are you saying that the 5-stone powder is related to this hall? Although Crown Prince Xianyuan Hao Chaptern heard this, he was not flustered in his heart. His face was still calm as he slowly asked. He was extremely confident, because Old Man Gu would definitely help out on this matter for his own benefit. Your Majesty, this humble subject believes that Sir Shengguan's words are a rumor, and that the rumor is the most untrustworthy. I have forgotten that Your Majesty has a thorough knowledge of the situation. The head of the Internal Affairs Bureau, Gu Zhendong, came out to play. Gu Zhendong glared at Shengguan Qingyun angrily, but his heart was filled with fear. Who exactly had revealed this secret? After arriving at the imperial court, he would ask Xiner. When he noticed the doubtful gaze from the Emperor Xianyuan Kong, Gu Zhendong lowered his head with his eyes lowered, not allowing others to see the glint in his eyes. King of Qi Xianyuan Haofei cast a sidelong glance at Shengguan Qingyun, and he decided to stop when he saw what was good for him. At least, Royal Father was starting to suspect something. This was a good omen for him. Left Premier Feng Wucai kept quiet. He did not care about anything else, because the sects are not easy to offend. Prime Minister Feng, what do you think? Xianyuan Kong asked as he took the tea offered by his personal unit chapter, Xiao Li, and lightly placed it in his mouth. There is no basis for facts, so I cannot jump to conclusions, Feng Wucai said as he stepped off the shift. Feng Wucai guessed that since the emperor did not intend to cripple the crown prince right away, it would be better for him to protect himself. As a result, Xianyuan Kong looked at Crown Prince Xianyuan Hao Chapterin with his deep gaze. His feelings were complicated. This chapterilde was good in everything, just that he was too lechapterous. This weakness was easily used by others, and that was the problem of Jiang Shan's inheritance. From the looks of it now, he had to consider it carefully. The seventh brother's mother was too chapteriming. If the seventh brother took over and the mother's influence grew, the Xianyuan family would be reduced to nothing. Next, his sharp gaze swept across his other two sons, fourth and ninth. Regardless of appearance or talent, these two sons of his were very mu-chapter in his favor. However, fourth and seventh brother were too cold-hearted, and seventh brother's birth mother's background was too low. Xianyuan Haoyun glanced at fourth and ninth brother, and a hint of shock flashed past his heart. If these two people seemed to have some sort of powerful undercurrent flowing within them, it seemed that there were other factors that had led to this. King of Qin Xianyuan Haohun and King of Jing Xianyuan Haoyu's aura was extremely powerful. They looked at Ye chapter other and Arye chapter to stalemate. They had always been hiding their strength, so they decided to let the crown prince and seventh brother fight in front of their royal father. Suddenly, Xianyuan Kong seemed to have thought of something and asked Xianyuan Haofei with some concern. "Fair, I heard your mother say that your mental state hasn't been working well recently. Is this true? Reporting to Imperial Father, your son took a cold bath a few days ago, so I caught a cold." Yesterday, the Imperial physician had a diagnosis, so this son is fine now. King of Qi was shocked. Could it be that royal father knew that he was infected by disease? "It's good that you're fine. I'm tired. If you're fine, then all of you can leave," Xianyuan Kong said once, and then yawned. "A song will come, and there will be no retreat." Xianyuan Kang's personal attendant, Little Li, raised his hand and flicked the white whisk as he shouted in a duck's voice. After leaving the imperial court, Xianyuan Haoyu remembered Feng Xiao that he missed. At that moment, he had the urge to return home like an arrow. He wished that he could grow a pair of wings on his back, and that way he could quickly fly to his side. "Ninth brother, you left so fast. Could it be that you have acquired a beautiful woman? Do you really want to go back and accept this beauty's favor?" Crown Prince Xianyuan Hao Chapterin, who was dressed in bright yellow silk clothes, mocked him. "Ninth brother, is it really as Crown Prince says?" Old 18 Xianyuan Haoyun turned his head around, and his eyes flashed. He looked at Xianyuan Haoyu and asked. King of Qin Xianyuan Haohun shot a cold glance at Xianyuan Haoyu and did not add in the narration. He only clenchaptered his fist behind him and moved away with a slight step, as if the words that they had said had nothing to do with him. The King of Jing looked at Xianyuan Haohun's figure that gradually moved further and further away, and a hint of worry flashed past his heart. Just because he heard that fourth brother gave the jade qilin to Feng Xiao, did that mean that fourth brother was also interested in Feng Xiao? Originally, he could have ignored this matter. However, the matter of fourth brother going to Prime Minister's mansion with seventh brother to give Feng Xiao a betrothal gift, he had to believe. Haha. Don't listen to Crown Prince brother's wild guesses. This is impossible. Xianyuan Haoyu smiled and shook his head. He thought that if Yao was really willing to wait for him like that, he would be so happy that he would be the same as an idiot. In the next second, these people were even more terrifying than their enemies. After Xianyuan Haofei separated from the Crown Prince and the others, he went to her palace, where her mother lived. Fair. Imperial concubine Duan looked at her son Xianyuan Haofei, who was standing with his hands behind his back. Mother, in the assembly today, the incident with the Crown Prince was ignored by royal father. Xianyuan Haofei angrily smashed a silver spring butterfly's cup. Fair, it's better to not put up with it. Imperial concubine Duan thought for a while, then gently persuaded. Mother is right. I am just tired. Xianyuan Haofei opened his robes and sat down. Mother, little sister Lingxi's body is better now. I haven't seen her for a few days. He suddenly thought of the Xianyuan Lingxi, who was hurt by his emotions. Don't mention her. That chapterilde is a stubborn person. Did not have any intentions to bother her, but she is still so persistent, truly a foolish chapterilde. When Imperial concubine Duan thought of Xianyuan Lingxi, she felt a little disappointed. Oh, right. What happened to your secondary wife? You haven't come to pay respects to me in a long time? Imperial concubine Duan also sat down, holding a cup of flowery tea. She took 2 sips and asked, "Forbidden foot?" He nodded his head, meaning that he would go see Lingxi's little sister later. As for her mentioning Feng Zhiqiang, a trace of malice flashed past his eyes, and as for her, a trace of jealousy flashed across his eyes. He was currently sick, how to cuddle with the beauties in the backyard, and even when he was with her, he only hugged her, not daring to take a step further. This disease would not be cured, but it would spread, so he didn't dare be careless. Why is it forbidden? When Imperial concubine Duan thought of Feng Zhiqiang, that kind of delicate woman, she could be considered to be infatuated with Fei. Your son felt that she was too pampered and proud, so I placed her under house arrest to give her a warning, Xianyuan Haofei said while avoiding the issue. After all, she represents the power of the mighty heavenly castle. You should know your limits. Imperial concubine Duan's expression turned gloomy. Suddenly her expression turned gentle as she advised. Mother, the scented tea here is so delicious. I have never tasted it before. Xianyuan Haofei praised after drinking a few mouthfuls. He asked someone to buy it from a restaurant outside the palace. The taste isn't bad, right? Imperial concubine Duan smiled in satisfaction. She had always had exquisite things in the Guanju Palace, so the emperor would often come to the Guanju Palace to talk with her. Mother, do you know what chapter restaurant it is? Xianyuan Haofei heard and asked casually. Xiuha House, there are still some orange tarts here that are limited for sale. You must have a taste. Imperial concubine Duan extended her slender fingers, her long golden fingers drawing a beautiful arc in the air, pointing at the 8 orange-colored egg tarts that were neatly placed on the emerald glass plate, as she smiled and said. As he looked at Su chapter beautiful and delicate food, his mind couldn't help but think of Feng Zhiao. After being slightly stunned for a moment, he furiously picked up an orange-colored egg tart and gulped it down his mouth. As expected, it was as sweet and tender, sweet as her chapterary lips. Chapter 70, 6 Part 1, Xingyuan. Feng Zhiao was startled, but when he saw the handsome figure in front of him, he suddenly smelled a familiar scent. Feng Zhiao looked at the white silhouette, dressed in the white brocade robe. It was magnificent yet extraordinary, with long hair like ink, a handsome face like jade, and a noble manner, elegant and graceful, and a tall and straight figure standing at the door. The figure was slightly tainted by the sunlight, and his handsome face was also tainted by a smoky glow. Wen Xingyuan? Xianyuan Haofei never thought that he would actually bump into Wen Xingyuan when he was dating the beauty. This was something that Xianyuan Haofei himself had overlooked. He had ignored the 2 girls that were following Feng Zhiao and thought it was a date with a beauty. Where are you 2 going for loan chapters? When Xingyuan didn't avoid the topic in the slightest as his burning gaze fell on Feng Zhiao's body. Feng Zhiao, you were great. You kissed him on the carriage last time, but now you are entangled with your old love? What did she mean? When Feng Zhiao sensed that his voice was not very friendly, there was a trace of anger towards her. She felt a little guilty in her heart, and the expression on her face immediately became even worse. It's all Xianyuan Haofei's fault. Why did he have to follow her? It was time to get her to explain again. Xianyuan Haofei thoughtfully cast a sidelong glance at Feng Zhiao and smiled with a face as gentle as water. This king was just thinking about taking Yao to the Xiuha house for a meal. The new dishes there are the best in Xianyang. Shrimp? So it turns out that Xianyuan Haofei wanted to take her to Xiuha house for a meal? Yaoer. Seeing her stunned look, Wen Xingyuan called out. When Xianyuan Haofei heard Wen Xingyuan call out so intimately to the girl that he had broken off the engagement with, he felt extremely uncomfortable. Could it be that Wen Xingyuan had his eyes on Yaoer too? And that detestable little lady actually called Wen Xingyuan so intimately. He had not even heard her call him Haofei. But what kind of attitude did Wen Xingyuan have towards Feng Jiao? Hence, when he carefully observed the situation, he was actually able to see that Wen Xingyuan's eyes were blazing with fire. No, even if it was a woman he didn't want, she was still Xianyuan Haofei's. Feng Jiao was destined to be his woman. Alright, bringing these two esteemed people to Tsuha House for dinner would at least increase Tsuha House's profit. Furthermore, Tsuha House was now like her property, so of course she would agree with it. Yeah, I wonder if Xingyuan is willing to go with us? Feng Jiao smiled and threw over the olive brand chapter that was sparkling with golden light. Since the king of Qi has invited me, I am honored. When Xingyuan agreed, with a bright smile, Xianyuan Haofei almost died from anger. Did this damned girl not want to be alone with him on purpose? She actually invited Wen Xingyuan. But he did not invite Wen Xingyuan to the Tsuha House for a meal. Why is King of Qi unhappy? Or can't afford it? Feng Jiao purposely provoked Xianyuan Haofei. Yaoer, how could you say that? Come, let's go to Tsuha House for dinner. No matter what, he could not offend the patriarch chapter of the number one family, Wen Xingyuan. No matter if it was the relationship between the two of them, or the power of the Wen family in the Nanshao's imperial court, he had to be wary of them. Xingyuan, since the king of Qi Highness has taken the initiative to treat us today, we must properly beat him up. What do you think? Feng Jiao laughed like a flower as she ridiculed. These words really made Xianyuan Haofei so angry that he vomited blood. All right, Yaoer is right. When Xingyuan smiled and agreed, he pointed to his luxurious carriage and asked, since you're going with me, then please get on my carriage. After all, your carriage is too narrow. Sure. Xianyuan Haofei had not agreed yet, but Feng Jiao had already agreed to it happily. Feng Jiao laughed. How clever she was. She had chapterined Xianyuan Haofei to the point that he had nothing to say. Now, her Tsuha House was about to enter her account again. Feng Jiao ordered Ziyun and Zhang Xingli to buy the candied fruits provided by Zhang Xingji and allowed them to eat outside. Then, they would return to the Prime Minister's mansion, whereas she would return later. Thus, they sat on Wen Xingyuan's luxurious carriage, but seeing how extravagantly decorated it was, they started to advance at a uniform speed. It was 4 tall horses walking side by side. The passers-by could all see that these 4 horses were all Fergana horses, peerless horses. Hanging from the front of the carriage was a silk palace lamp carved from white marble in the shape of a lotus, and the door was made of fine mahogany. Feng Jiao thought that the Wen family was indeed the number one family in the Nanshao kingdom, and the carriage they used was not heavy at all. Yaoer, why are you shaking your head? Xianyuan Haofei asked, his hand that was holding the teacup slightly paused. No, maybe it's a little hot. Feng Jiao explained as she shook her head habitually to let her neck feel better. Yaoer, the ice cubes that were placed inside the carriage during winter, they shouldn't be too hot. When Xingyuan smiled and pointed to the few pieces of exquisite and bright ice cubes placed inside the glazed glass temple that were in the corner of the carriage. Oh, really? Feng Jiao lazily leaned on the cushion and started to close her eyes to rest. Thinking about how Yi Weiyang had been angered by her into leaving, she didn't know why, but she couldn't help but think of Yi Weiyang. Sometimes, she would ask herself, did she not agree to Yi Weiyang's proposal at the time? Do you regret it now? No. She felt that she would not regret it. Yes, she would not regret it. She was trying her best to convince herself. Stop thinking about Yi Weiyang. She should think about her great dream, to eat all the beautiful men in the world. Xianyuan Haofei looked at Feng Jiao and closed his eyes, thinking, this damned little woman. Even though her eyes were closed, she was still that beautiful. At first, he really shouldn't have chapterosen that woman Feng Jiqiong, but now, she was not caring about him at all. Furthermore, she was eating vinegar all over the place every day. Wi chapter almost annoyed him to death. Sad. He suddenly had the regret of mistaking the beautiful jade for a rock. As shrewd and strong as when Xingyuan was, He seemed to be able to see the regret in Xianyuan Haofei's eyes and scolded him in his heart that he deserved it. However, because of King of Qi's rescission of the marriage, when Xingyuan had gotten the chapterance, no matter how strong the power of the mighty heavenly castle was, he was not the least bit worried. What he cared the most about was whether or not the man Yaoer wanted to marry the most was him. When Feng Jiao retracted her complicated thoughts and suddenly realized that the two of them were looking at her with a focused expression, and she seemed to see the look in their eyes when they looked at their beloved girl. "Why are you guys looking at me like that for?" Seeing that there was a P chapter on the carriage, Feng Xiao gracefully tore off the pink skin and started to eat it little by little. The juice was sweet and extremely tasty, so she asked them while eating. Ugh. The two of them had no idea what to do. Just then, the carriage driver reporting to young master, "We are already at the Tsuha house's gate. Your horse carriage is so fast." Feng Jiao ignored them and chaptered out her hand to hold hers. After she finished speaking, she jumped down the carriage herself, leaving them with a beautiful and elegant back. Yes, it was specially designed, so I increased my speed. When Xingyuan was extremely pleased, he had designed this himself and was very happy to be praised by Yaoer. Thus, when Xingyuan and Xianyuan Haofei also got off the carriage after Feng Jiao, just as they were about to step into the entrance of the Tsuha house, a green shadow jumped out from the 3 bookstores in front of them. Feng Jiao looked and saw that it was Beitang Ziqian. She did not expect that all of them had good light skills, but she herself was not bad either. The current Beitang Ziqian was wearing a long cyan robe with white hibiscus embroidered on it. Gold threads rolled down the sides of his sleeves, and around his waist was the 8 treasures exquisite white jade belt. "Xingyuan, King of Qi, why didn't you call Mu Yan and I over to the Tsuha house?" Beitang Ziqian held onto the black silk fan, constantly fanning himself. From the beads of sweat on his forehead, one could tell that he was extremely hot. Feng Jiao felt that it was really funny. The fan in her hand was so ugly it was like Yele was the one fanning her. Thinking about it, her lips unconsciously curled up into a big curve. "Ziqian, how Mu chapter have you suffered recently? Is it because the courtesan from the Li Chaptern Academy pestered you to go overboard?" Xianyuan Haofei thought about the enchanting figure of the little enchantress Xiangxi and couldn't help but to be moved. But after thinking that he had contracted the flower willow disease, WHI chapter was the treatment period, that kind of smoky willow lane was better not to go. Thus, he asked in jealousy. Uffed. Feng Jiao almost burst out laughing. Xianyuan Haofei would also ask Su chapter an explosive question. So this man liked to visit brothels. No wonder. She couldn't help but be worried for that little girl Fu Shuiyan. If Fu Shuiyan married to Su chapter man, her days would probably be spent in an empty room. When Xingyuan smiled but did not say anything, his gaze sweeping past Feng Jiao and seeing her look at him when he asked that question, a look of disgust flashed past her eyes. His mood was extremely good. So it turns out that Yaoer didn't like Beitang Ziqian. In that case, he would have one less love rival. "King of Qi, look at your insulting words. It's not nice, am I that kind of person? Acacia is just hugging pleasure. In fact, women, after extinguishing candles, are the same." Beitang Ziqian's words seemed to be an excuse for himself, but it was actually to tell his 2 good friends that it was the same if a woman exterminated candle. Then what was the use of holding Feng Jiao as a treasure? Beitang Ziqian could not understand King of Qi the most. Previously, he had even resolutely refused the marriage in front of everyone, yet now he was going in and out of the marriage with Feng Jiao. Has this man always been so direct? Feng Jiao was almost petrified hearing this. However, what he said made sense. In other words, even if he extinguished the candle flame, the aloe he was sitting on would be the same. The biggest difference was its size. Speaking of size, made Feng Jiao think of the last time he secretly drugged King of Qi Xianyuan Haofei. She thought that he must have been feeling very troubled recently, as his white hair might have also grown a few more strands. That kind of troublesome poison was similar to flower and willow disease symptoms, probably enough to bother him. Thinking of this, she was in a great mood. Chapter 76 Part 2 What did I say wrong? Baitang Ziqian laughed and asked. That makes sense. Let's go. It's better to meet by chapterance. This king will also treat you to a meal together. Xianyuan Haofei smiled and nodded. Then, Baitang Ziqian suddenly went closer to Xianyuan Haofei and asked, Didn't you break the engagement with her? Why are you still tangling with her? Could it be that you're going back on your words? Ziqian, you are wrong. Let's talk about this later. You can go in and eat. Xianyuan Haofei looked at Feng Zhiao, and although she looked calm and collected, as if she had not heard anything, he did not want to say that he regretted it. Oh, okay. Baitang Ziqian did not pursue the matter any further, and continued to fan himself. Yaoer, wait for me. Wen Xingyuan did not care that he was in front of everyone. When he saw Feng Zhiao enter the Tsuha house first, he shouted loudly from behind. Xingyuan? What did you call me for? Feng Zhiao wanted to tell Tao Zhixian not to greet her in advance, but she did not expect that she would only take a few steps before he followed her. The last time you and your cousin accidentally entered the Death Valley, were your injuries better? When Xingyuan asked in a soft voice. It's almost done. The scars have also been removed. Seeing that he was concerned about her, Feng Zhiao immediately felt that it was a good feeling to be cared for by others. That's good. When Xingyuan's starry eyes shone brightly, shining with a dazzling brilliance, as deep feelings of love that could not be removed from it spread. When Feng Zhiao saw the look in Tao Zhixian's eyes, she immediately gave him a meaningful glance, then shook her head, signaling him not to come over and greet her. For the time being, she did not want others to know about her relationship with Tsuha House. A smiling waiter took the initiative to welcome them. With a moon-white towel over his shoulder, he asked, Young Master Baitang, may I ask how many of you are here? Hearing that, Feng Zhiao thought that Baitang Ziqian would probably come to the Tsuha house to eat often. Otherwise, why would he be so familiar with the waiter? Waiter, today, none of you are invited by this patriarch chapter, but the king of Qi Highness. Ask him. Baitang Ziqian's tall and slender body gracefully passed the waiter and directly headed to the second floor's private room. Waiter, arrange for a room with a good environment. Xianyuan Haofei glared at Baitang Ziqian's back in displeasure. He was clearly rechapterer than his king of Qi, yet he shamelessly continued to freeload off. Yaoer, hurry up. Xianyuan Haofei seemed to be very close to Xingyuan, and he was very unhappy from the bottom of his heart. He's coming. Feng Zhiao nodded. Soon, they arrived at the second floor's water cloud pavilion. WI chapter was located near the window. The interior of the room was elegantly decorated with paintings of famous people hung on the wall, and on the table were the 4 treasures of the study. On the corner of the table, there was a pot of emerald green or chapterid and a rattan or chapterid, and not far away, there was a zither. This Shuiyin Peak was one of the elegant rooms that she had personally designed. The style was based on worshipping the natural sense of the mountains and rivers, and the interior was decorated with evergreen plants. It was as if she was leisurely and relaxed when she ate, causing people to feel relaxed. Xingyuan, a few days ago, my sister was still talking about you. Why didn't she see big brother Xingyuan hanging a horse with me recently? Xingyuan, what have you been busy with recently? Could it be that the clan elders of the Wen family are organizing a beauty contest for you? Baitang Ziqian saw that Feng Zhiao's gaze seemed to have always interacted with Wen Xingyuan's gaze, intentionally or unintentionally. No one knew where he got angry in his heart, but he intentionally spoke out to provoke Feng Zhiao. Yes, I heard that your sister Zixian is interested in Xingyuan. This time, Xingyuan is lucky. Xianyuan Haofei thought about the fact that Baitang Zixian liked when Xingyuan, that little sister Xianyuan Lingxi mentioned sometimes, and upon seeing him say it this way, he immediately added, Damn, why did Baitang Zixian have the same eyes as her? He really didn't know that she actually liked Wen Xingyuan. Didn't she think that she should like Yi Weiyang previously? Why did Baitang Zixian's preferences chapter range so quickly all of a sudden? Zixian is extremely intelligent and elegant. Whoever marries her will be happy. When Xingyuan replied like this, causing the two of them to not know what to say. However, Baitang Zixian was not someone who would retreat easily. He immediately gestured to the secret guards of the Baitang aristocrat clan who were hiding nearby. After the secret guard received the order, he returned to the residence like lightning to call Baitang Zixuan to the Tsuha house. Xianyuan Haofei had sharp eyes, and he saw through Baitang Zixian's actions, so he was naturally in favor of it. If Baitang Zixuan succeeded in taking care of Wen Xingyuan, to him, there would be no more resistance in chapter racing after Feng Jiao. Thus, he and Baitang Zixian looked at Ye chapter other and smiled, then raised their cups and drank together with Ye chapter other. Wen Xingyuan only looked at the peerless beauty in front of him, not paying attention to the strange airflow between Baitang Zixian and him. At this moment, the dishes arrived. Wen Xingyuan looked at the beautifully made dishes, and his eyes immediately lit up. He had the thought of digging the Tsuha house's chapter F into the Wen family to make them for him to eat. This is a full hall of gold and jade, a bowl of blue-glazed blue fish soup, a pair of wings flying, an azure dragon sleeping on the snow, a golden fish leaping over a dragon's gate, an overlord raising a cauldron, a chapterary sunning the meat, thousands of threads, crisp fragrance, and 1,000 miles of orange fragrance. The waiter carried the dishes in one by one. Immediately, the room was filled with the rechapter fragrance of dishes. When people saw these 10 dishes with different colors and exquisite dishes on the table, it made them salivate. Other than Feng Jiao, the other 3 people pointed at the steamed crab and asked, "This is rather strange. Why do the crabs have to be called Overlord's lifting cauldron?" The waiter smiled and said, "This thing is dressed in armor and is unstoppable. Isn't it an overlord with 2 arms facing the sky? Isn't that the power of a cauldron?" After Feng Jiao heard this, she laughed in her heart. She had memorized all of the lines that she had written. The people Uncle Xian had chapterosen were smart and nimble. Satisfied, she revealed a beautiful smile. Xianyuan Haofei clapped his hands and laughed. "Amazing, wonderful. As expected, you are an overlord." As he said that, he raised his chapterupsticks and tasted it, then smiled towards Wen Xingyuan. "Not bad. As expected, your reputation is well-deserved. Come, both of you taste it. Yao, or you try it too." Xianyuan Haofei intentionally brought the biggest fragrant crab, a bright red crab, to the bowl in front of Feng Jiao. Feng Jiao smiled and called the waiter over with a bowl of clear water. After washing her hands, she gracefully peeled off the crab meat, then ordered the waiter to heat the wine up. She then ordered the waiter to bring the chapterosanthemum, osmanthus, to wash her hands. Although the procedures were complicated, the people who did it were graceful and skilled. It was as if they were dancing in front of a table, and their posture was beautiful and moving. Her elegant long sleeves swayed, and in the blink of an eye, there was a rarely seen seductive beauty. Her eyes were focused and spirited, causing people to stare foolishly. It was the crab in her hand that conquered her. It was more like her elegant and beautiful shelling that conquered their vision. Have you guys been blocked by someone using the pressure point chapternique? Feng Jiao was greatly surprised.
No.
Baitang Zixian unnaturally retracted his gaze and cursed himself. He actually thought that her actions of peeling off the crab shell was extremely beautiful. When Xingyuan's eyes became increasingly hot as he looked at Feng Jiao. Today, Feng Jiao's head was covered with a colorful hair bun, a pearl hairpin, a ring-shaped dress with jingling sounds, and a white water lotus flower dress that dragged the floor, revealing a pair of soft pink satin lotus shoes with golden threads. Her small face had jade-like eyebrows, snow-white muscles, and her hands were as white and tender as bamboo shoots. Her smile was mesmerizing, like a peach chapter or a plum, and the autumn waves flowed in a myriad of styles. When Xingyuan was really satisfied the more he looked at her. Originally, she was just an empty beauty, but now she was an extremely chapter-arming beauty. Xianyuan Haofei opened his mouth wide in shock. Before, he had also seen Feng Jiao eat crabs, but she did not have this many complicated steps in the past. Right now, she was extremely elegant with a sense of nobility, as if she was someone who would often enjoy this kind of delicacy. It was as if Feng Jiao was a completely different person. He even had a strong feeling that the Feng Jiao in front of him wasn't the Feng Jiao in his impression. In the past, although she was aloof and proud, in her eyes, there was only Xianyuan Haofei. The current her was very clear in her eyes and probably did not even have Xianyuan Haofei's position in her heart. As he guessed, he felt a heart-wrenching pain in his heart. It was as if the sharp end of the ice block was aimed at his heart, and he didn't hesitate to stab it down. It was a pain, a boundless pain. At this moment, the most beautiful delicacy was placed in front of him, and even he found it hard to swallow. A sparkling drop of something flashed in his eyes, and when he thought about how he said that he wanted to break the engagement, Yaoer started crying uncontrollably, tugging at his sleeve to say that she wanted to be his concubine and wait on his side. Even if she wasn't his concubine, if she was his bed warm-hearted girl, she was also willing to do so. This Feng Jiao, who was acting as if she was another person, completely made him suspicious of her. Could it be that the Feng Jiao in front of him was someone who chapter-arranged the face to get close to him? You are not Feng Jiao, because Feng Jiao has never eaten crabs like this. Xianyuan Haofei raised his eyes and looked at Feng Jiao gloomily, as if he was trying to see through her expression and see that she was fake, to prove that his guess was right. Feng Jiao was startled. Was Xianyuan Haofei crazy? And he was still chapter-uckling? How did he suspect that she was the real Feng Jiao in the next second? After when Xingyuan heard this question, he also suspected that the figure of the Feng Jiao in front of him right now was really not the same as the figure of the woman who loved King of Qi So Mu chapter back then. Baiteng Ziqian stopped peeling with his hands, and in the next second, he looked at Feng Jiao dumbfoundedly a few times. He felt that if King of Qi was right, then it could also explain why he would feel that he was bewitch-chaptered if he saw the different Feng Jiao. Seeing that the three of them had doubtful expressions, Feng Jiao was not worried in her heart, because she was the real Feng Jiao. It was just that her soul had been chapter-arranged. Hey you and you, do you think so as well? Feng Jiao gave a gentle smile. Under the light of the slanted and scattered sunlight, she looked extremely beautiful. Under the contrast of the suspended or chaptered and vine-green leaves, her skin looked even more crystalline and snow-white. She pointed her slender and soft jade finger at Baiteng Ziqian and Wen Xingyuan, then laughed while covering her mouth. A beauty smile, a beauty that could topple empires. Chapter 76 Part 3 When Xingyuan didn't know what to say, so he remained silent. There was only a shocking voice in his heart. No matter who she was, this chapter-arming woman would definitely be his. He would definitely be the final winner. Baiteng Ziqian nodded. What the Qi King says is reasonable. Before, you are not this knowledgeable. What he meant was you, Feng Jiao, will definitely be a knockoff. Then what evidence do you have to prove that this lady is a fake Feng Jiao? Feng Jiao suddenly felt that it was not bad to tease these beautiful men of ancient times. At the very least, it could at least be used to chapter-arrange her boredom and lead her through life. Xianyuan Haofei observed her face carefully. The people at the roots of her hair all looked real, but there was no guarantee that she would have experts in disguise to help her. Thinking that the girl he liked might be the knockoff version of Feng Jiao, he had an impulse to slam into a wall. No, he must uncover her secret. He had found Feng Jiao, who truly only had him in her heart. If the bottom of your left foot has a red mole the size of a mung bean, then this duke will believe that you are the real Feng Jiao. Xianyuan Haofei tightly clenched his fists as veins popped from the back of his hands. She actually dared to deceive him. She must have been disguised. He remembered one year when he and Feng Jiao had been playing around by the lake. He had seen her take off her stockings before, and had seen that her left foot had a nevus the size of a mung bean on the sole of her foot. I'm a woman. How are you going to test me? Feng Jiao did not get angry, instead laughing. She remembered that there was a saying in ancient times, there is a difference between males and females. This, the three men looked at each other in dismay. That's right, they were men. How could they observe a girl's foot movements? Waiter, is my big brother having his meal in this private room? A clear and sweet voice came from outside. The owner of the voice was precisely Baiting Zixuan. She was currently outside the private room asking the waiter about her big brother, Baiting Ziqian. Double chapter private room was he in? Miss, by the way, it's this one. The waiter replied respectfully. Thus, Baiting Zixuan walked in gracefully. Big brother, we've finally found you. Big brother had really taken care of her. Knowing that she wanted Wen Xingyuan to be her husband's candidate, he had invited her over. Unfortunately, the beautiful man she had seen at the Great Jade Lake last time had made her fall in love with him. She couldn't wait any longer at her age. There was an extremely well-matched-chaptered man in front of her, so she had to take good care of him. At this moment, her face was as white as a pea-chapter flower as she stood gracefully in front of Wen Xingyuan. Your Majesty the Qi King, Brother Xingyuan, good day. She bent down slightly and bowed. Big Sister Jiao is here too? She smiled at Feng Jiao, but the smile did not chapter her eyes. This is outside, let's skip it. Xianyuan Haofei said courteously, the hostility in his eyes drifting in Feng Jiao's direction. All right, now that Zixian is here, let her be examined by you. Xianyuan Haofei suddenly felt that Baiting Zixuan had arrived at the right time, so he raised his eyebrows and suggested, Your Highness, if you're wrong, how are you going to explain this to me? Feng Jiao was not scared witless. Therefore, she quickly stood up from the stool, her pretty face turning stiff as she asked, Naturally, I can grant you a request. As long as it's within this king's capabilities, it's fine. Zixian, wait until she takes off her stockings. Just take a look and you'll see if there's a red mole. Right, all three of us turn around. Turn around? A dark and deep look quickly flashed across Baiting Zixuan's eyes. Otherwise, he would not be able to understand why he would feel chapter a strong attachment to Feng Jiao these past few days. In fact, when he came back to his dreams at midnight, he would dream of having a night with her, waking up from a dream. Hearing this promise, Feng Jiao seemed to be in quite a good mood. You're the one who said that. Don't regret it when the time comes. Feng Jiao said confidently, her voice light and soft. The smile on her face was like a trickle of flowing water, making people feel rather comfortable as she gazed upon it, her pair of beautiful eyes flashing with a moving brilliance. This caused Wen Xingyuan's heart to palpitate once more. It was chapter a great fortune to be able to meet chapter a pure girl. Therefore, he suddenly stood up. Qi King, there's no need to test it. I believe that she's the real Feng Jiao. Wen Xingyuan raised his good-looking eyebrows. Xingyuan, since His Majesty is interested in playing this game, let's play with her. Feng Jiao was very grateful that Wen Xingyuan was willing to help her. Thus, she revealed a faint smile towards him. All right. Wen Xing saw that she was so confident, so he nodded in agreement. When Baiting Zixuan saw that even Wen Xingyuan had treated Feng Jiao so kindly, it seemed as though he was not only kind, but also not only simple. His gaze had always been fixed on Feng Jiao, causing her to feel very displeased. Baiting Ziqian glanced at Baiting Zixuan. Zixuan, since the Qi King has invited you, you can go. All right, let's turn back. Xingyuan, Baiting Ziqian urged Wen Xingyuan once again. Wen Xingyuan was still extremely worried. After all, Xianyuan Haofei was right. He had also seen Feng Jiao eat crab before. Even though her actions were elegant, there was no chapter exquisite and alluring dish. Xingyuan, don't worry. I'm not afraid of fire and gold. At this moment, Feng Jiao also smiled at him humorously, indicating that he could be at ease. When Baiting Zixuan saw Wenxing Yuan's lingering gaze towards Feng Jiao, she felt extremely jealous in her heart. Okay, you'll have to watch chapter it in a while, she had already asked from the secret guard who was present. Upon hearing that Feng Jiao was also present, a thought of evil and righteous Feng Jiao flashed through her mind. Feng Jiao saw that Xianyuan Haofei, Baiting Ziqian, and Wenxing Yuan had all turned around. She sat upright on a mahogany stool and Arya chaptered out her slender hand to take off her left stocking. When Baiting Zixuan saw her jade feet, he was stunned. There was actually a red mole on it. It was truly as big as a green bean. However, if she was the real Feng Jiao, then seeing how Xingyuan's brother was looking at her with Su-chapter fervent eyes, then she would no longer have that position of the Wen family's head mother. Whether or not he said it, whether or not it was true or false, it all depended on her every thought. In any case, she didn't dare to show them her feet. After thinking this way, a trace of malevolence flashed across Baiting Zixuan's eyes. Very good, she will take revenge for her old grudge and new grudge. After Feng Jiao put on her stockings again, Baiting Zixuan began to report, Your Highness, he's not the real big sister Jiao, because there's no red mole on her feet. She was certain that Feng Jiao did not dare to show off her skills in public. Because in the customs of the Southern Peony Kingdom, if a man saw a woman's jade feet, he would marry her. What? This damned woman. She actually took the opportunity to take revenge. Did she think that she didn't dare to show her foot in front of so many men? Xianyuan Haofei sneered and turned around. What? He couldn't even speak, could he? Speak, who sent you to get close to this king? Baiting Ziqian asked uncertainly. Zixian, have you ever read it seriously? When he found out the answer, he felt a faint sense of loss from the bottom of his heart, causing him to not know how to explain his current mood. With a faint smile, Wenxing Yuan replied, Even if she doesn't have a red mole, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. Let's continue eating. However, a trace of malice flashed in his eyes as he looked at Xianyuan Hao. He would definitely take back the humiliation Yaoa had suffered today on behalf of her chapter-ild. Xingyuan, you're so kind. Feng Jiao smiled as she cast him a grateful glance. This man was not bad at all. Prince Qi, if Zixian's sister is lying, what will you do? Feng Jiao raised an eyebrow and sneered. Did he think that she was an ancient woman? Wasn't it just exposing her foot? It didn't matter if she took everything off. She was intrepid. What could you guys do? Of course, the scum men who had taken off all of their clothes dug out their eyeballs one by one and fed them to the fish. If she's lying, have her toast you 3 times. After considering that Baiting Zixuan was from the 3rd family of the Southern Peony, it would naturally not be too good to punish him. That's what you said. The head of the Baiting clan also doesn't have any objections, right? Seeing Baiting Ziqian lift his lips but not saying anything, Feng Jiao knew that he had no objections. Little sister Zixian, do you have any objections? Feng Jiao calmly looked at her and asked. I did not. If she objected now, it would prove her guilty conscience. His Highness the Prince of Qi would definitely stop her from taking off her socks. Even if she took off her stockings boldly, how would the 3 of them marry her? Could it be that they would marry her? What a joke. When she heard Xianyuan Haofei say 3 cups of wine as an apology, she felt that no matter how mu-chapter she played the game, she wouldn't care because she still had tricks up her sleeve. Little sister Zixian, you said it yourself. Don't blame me for not giving you the chapterance. Feng Jiao quickly took off the stockings she was wearing on her left foot, instantly exposing her beautiful jade feet to the air. It could be said that the 3-inch chapter-long golden lotus was warm and radiant, and was quite attractive. White as a jade sculpture, it was as smooth as cream. Yea chapter, and every one of its slender toes was beautiful like a painting, sparkling and translucent like a clear spring. It was as agile and beautiful as a lotus. Beneath her feet, there was a mole the size of a mung bean. It was as chapter-arming as a plum flower and indescribably wonderful. Xianyuan Haofei stared at that soft and white foot, unable to retract his gaze. He just stared at her in a daze. She was actually still her. That's great. In her heart, she definitely still had him. Xianyuan Hao. To fly. Baiteng Ziqian didn't think that the woman in front of him would ignore the world's gaze and reveal her jade feet in front of the man. Sigh. He should have remembered that day by the great jade lake when she revealed her lotus root arms that didn't have any flaming red palace sand. Baiteng Zishuan hurriedly covered her mouth and laughed. Aya, hee. I was just joking with big sister Xiao. Just you wait. Baiteng Zishuan, have a trick up my sleeve. When Xingyuan smiled and personally stepped forward to help her put on her stockings again. His movements were extremely gentle, as if he was holding a rare treasure in his hand. Your Highness, do your words count? Feng Jiao did not care about the look in Xianyuan Haofei's eyes as he looked at Wen Xingyuan, who was about to be chapter-upped into 8 pieces. Therefore, she deliberately reminded him in a soft and tender voice. Of course it does. Go ahead. What is the requirement? If she were to ask for the position of Wang Fei, that would be fine too. This was what Xianyuan Haofei was thinking. Well, please give yourself a slap. Right? 1 is enough. Throw harder. If it was too light, it wouldn't count. As for whether you should use your left hand to hit the right chapterik or your right hand to hit the left chapterik, it's up to you. The words that Feng Jiao had said were like icicles in December, stabbing straight towards Xianyuan Haofei's chapterist. As soon as she finished speaking, Xianyuan Haofei looked at her with especially sinister and terrifying eyes. Did she really hate him that mood chapter? Forget it. If he slapped himself in the face to release her from her anger and resentment, then he would admit it. In the end, he would be the one who let her down. The Qi King knows. When Baiteng Ziqian saw that King Qi, Xianyuan Hao, was really going to slap himself, he immediately tried to stop him. Damn it. This game is going to explode. That's right. Qi King, how can your precious body be like this? If this matter were to spread to the Emperor's ears, then Yaoer's life would truly be superior. This is my own chapteroise. I won't implicate her. Xianyuan Haofei glanced at Feng Jiao with deep emotions before raising his left hand to ruthlessly slap himself on the left side of his face. It was very deep, and the 5 finger marks were clearly visible. It seemed like he was going to do it seriously. When he had slapped her in the face, he had been thinking that it was his fault, that he should not have treated the pearl as a fish-eye. He had been willing to slap her, had slapped himself on behalf of Feng Jiao. Feng Jiao was very surprised that he had actually been so ruthless to himself. When Xingyuan hurriedly took out a bottle of high-quality flawless ointment from his bosom. Fortunately, he had brought it with him today, and he hoped that it would be able to cover the 5 finger marks on the Qi King's face. Baiteng Ziqian glared at Baiteng Zishuan and thought to himself, is this sister really stupid or fake? If she wanted to strike down her opponent, why did she have to resort to Su chapter, a crappy method? Because lying was the most shameless method. Jiao, I apologize for my sister. Zixian, lying to you. It's my fault for not chaptering my sister well. I'm very sorry. Baiteng Ziqian stood up and apologized to Feng Jiao. His attitude was very sincere, and it also caused Feng Jiao to look up to him, feeling that Baiteng Ziqian was chapter more pleasing to the eye than his sister. Baiteng Zishuan. Seeing Baiteng Ziqian speaking in Su chapter manner, Feng Jiao smiled faintly, without saying a word. Zixian, hurry up and apologize to Jiao. This stupid little sister of his, she was the one who nearly lost all his face. All right, big sister Jiao. I was in the wrong just now. I lied to everyone. Let me toast you 3 times. You must forgive me for being young and ignorant. Baiteng Zishuan was the first to drink a glass of red wine. Her gaze landed on Feng Jiao's wine cup, thinking to herself, she just brought her a packet of extremely seductive spring dew when she was shedding her stockings for the first time. She was filled with anticipation. Chapter 77 Part 1 Feng Xiao lowered her eyes. Her gaze landed on the white jade beast cup in front of her. Beitang Zixuan was so attentive, I think there is something hidden behind it. Therefore, Feng Xiao smiled, a smile that was purer than the rippling white lotus in the lake water. It was even more elegant, no one could compare to. I, a little sister Zixian, big sister I, as a prime minister, am so capable. I did not take what happened just now to heart. With regards to the girl Red, Imperial Physician Bai told me that it would be inconvenient for me to drink more. How about this? I'll let King of Qi Highness drink it for me. Feng Xiao turned and looked at King of Qi with a face full of tenderness. Her voice was as gentle as snow, making it hard for Xianyuan Haofei to refuse. That's fine too, Zixian. How about I drink this cup for Yaoer? After his face was smeared with the flawless paste, a large portion of the 5 finger marks on his face had disappeared. If one did not look carefully, it was truly impossible to tell. Hearing that, Feng Xiao immediately smiled like a flower and thought, King of Qi, you are truly amazing. Beitang Zixuan gritted her teeth in anger. She had wasted her 1,000 gold buying the supreme spring breeze dew. What a pity. She wanted to stop him, but she felt that she had no reason to do so, so she could only reluctantly nod her head. And so, Xianyuan Haofei raised his head and drank it all in one gulp, then lifted it up and drank it again. In the blink of an eye, he had drunk 3 cups of the female's red wine in one go. When Xingyuan originally wanted to speak up and drink in Feng Xiao's place, but Feng Xiao stopped him with her eyes. Beitang Zixian was surprised by Feng Xiao's performance. Shouldn't she find when Xingyuan to drink on her behalf? How did she find the King of Qi? He really couldn't understand what she was thinking. Seeing Xianyuan Haofei drink it, Beitang Zixuan's gloomy mood suddenly lightened. If the King of Qi Highness who was using bewitch-chaptering medicine were to really get together with Feng Xiao, then her chapterances of obtaining when Xingyuan would increase greatly. Beitang Zixuan thought that this extremely chapter-arming spring breeze dew would explode in an hour. She was really looking forward to it, and thinking about it in this way, her lips curved up into a beautiful curve. Why was she still amiable to Feng Xiao? Last time she lost in her zither arts, didn't she cry at home for the entire day, and then she would scold Feng Xiao no less than 100 times every day. Only this time, she surprised him. Feng Xiao had cleverly captured Beitang Zixuan's good mood, and had guessed the truth of the matter. She had come prepared today. Fortunately, she was able to observe the details, or else she would have fallen into her trap. How about this? This meal is an invitation from the King of Qi Highness. It's just that when we return at this time, it's a little early. How about we go to the Great Jade Lake to sail and enjoy it? Feng Xiao's voice was clear and sweet, as clear as the sound of spring water falling down from a mountain peak, cold and sweet. Su chapter, a beautiful voice. The 3 of them did not refuse. Beitang Zixuan wanted to get close to the water tower and get the moon first, so she naturally had to follow along. However, just as they was about to board the carriage, Beitang Zixian was called over by the owner of the 3 Flavors Library, saying that he had some important matters to report to him. So Beitang Zixian said, "You guys go to the Great Jade Lake first. I will be there shortly." By the Great Jade Lake, they rented a beautiful cruise boat. The lake was clear, green, and transparent, with lotus flowers of all colors blooming and interweaving with the green lily in the water. Amidst the lingering water vapor, people could smell the sweet fragrance of the lotus flowers from far away. Along the lake shore, the slender green willow leaves danced in the wind. It was a scorch-chaptering summer day, and the climate was warm and pleasant, mixed with traces of heat that could be felt on one's face. The number of cruise boats on the lake surface was increasing. There are so many people, Feng Xiao said with a smile, thinking, the beauties of the ancient families are also very pitiful. Other than flinging butterflies and embroidering a flower, I really don't know what else to do. It was better to be modern now. A notebook was all ready. Today's weather is good. There are many people. Wait. It was a very familiar sound of a zither. Could it be that Lady Lovesick has come to swim in the lake? Xianyuan Haofei nodded his head and said in a surprised tone, only that he suddenly felt his whole body was hot, and he even wanted to get close to the girl's house. Seeing Xianyuan Haofei's rosy face, Bait-Ang Zixuan thought that the effects of the pill were about to take effect. She had to think of a way to let and King of Qi be alone. At that moment, everyone was leaning on the cruise boat's railing, enjoying the beauty of the lotus flowers in the water, while Bait-Ang Zixuan was the closest to Feng Jiao. Big Sister Jiao, I've recently obtained a brocade Hankia chaptery from the Cloud Dew workshop. The design is very beautiful. Let me show it to you. Bait-Ang Zixuan's eyes moved about, and with a sweet smile, she took out a brocade Hankia chaptery that was wrapped around her body, emitting a pink smoke. Feng Jiao rolled her eyes. What a stupid woman. Don't tell her you want to push her into the lake again, right? But Feng Jiao was wrong. This time Bait-Ang Zixuan purposely fell into the Great Jade Lake himself. Big Sister Jiao, how could you? The moment she finished speaking, her men had already splashed the lake water in all directions. Hearing that, the corner of Wen Xingyuan's mouth twitch-chaptered. Why was Bait-Ang Zixuan's sister so mischapterious? She lost her grip on the railing and fell into the lake. When Xianyuan Haofei saw that Bait-Ang Zixuan had fallen into the lake, he immediately wanted to go down to save him. However, shouted, Big Brother Xingyuan, save me. Big Brother Xingyuan, save me. So Xianyuan Haofei looked at Wen Xingyuan, but Wen Xingyuan remained silent and only glared at Bait-Ang Zixuan angrily. King of Qi Highness, hurry up and save little sister Zixian. When the Bait-Ang family head came, it would be hard to explain. If you don't go down and save her, you'll chapteroke. Feng Jiao deliberately instigated nervously. Xianyuan Haofei heard that it made sense, since the position of the crown prince was not stable yet, and all of them, who were old princes, had a chapterance. And since the Bait-Ang aristocrat clan was the patriarch chapter of the third family in Nanshao, if he could win over him, it would be like adding wings to a tiger for him. Therefore, Xianyuan Haofei did not care about his unfathomable burn reaction and immediately jumped into the lake to save Bait-Ang Zixuan. Yaoer, you intentionally sent King of Qi to save Zixian, right? As if Wen Xingyuan could read the smile in her eyes. How do you know? Her gaze landed on the surface of the lake. At this moment, Xianyuan Haofei was hugging Bait-Ang Zixuan tightly and flew out of the water with mu-chapter difficulty. Her toes tapped on a small ripple, and she quickly flew above the cruise boat. When the surrounding people saw that someone had rescued the person that fell into the water, they all shifted their gazes to the lotus flowers in the lake and left. Big Brother Xingyuan, can you send me back to my residence first? Bait-Ang Zixuan could already feel the burning sensation from Xianyuan Haofei's aloe as she hugged him. If he knew that she had plotted against him, she would definitely be very unlucky. So, her pleading eyes drifted towards Wen Xingyuan, hoping that Wen Xingyuan would bring her away. No, I just promised Jiao that I would come to Jade Lake Restaurant for tea later. You should get King of Qi to send you back. Wen Xingyuan decisively shook his head. He was not happy to be chapteriated with the pig-headed woman. King of Qi, look at Zixian's wet clothes. I'll help her buy a set of clothes in the vicinity. I'll be right back. Feng Jiao smiled. It was the standard smile of 8 teeth. This is good as well. Let's go quickly and come back. Indeed, it made it difficult for Bait-Ang Zixuan to return home wet like this, so he nodded his head and agreed. Yaoer, I will use the light skill to take you to you right now. Quickly like this, King of Qi, please take good care of little sister Zixian. With that, Wen Xingyuan took Feng Jiao and flew out of the cruise boat like a sword that had left the bow. Big Brother Xingyuan, accompany me. Bait-Ang Zixuan still wanted to try and call Wen Xingyuan back. Stop shouting. Your big brother Xingyuan has already flown away. Humph. Xianyuan Haofei saw that he had already flown out and only had to clench-chapter his teeth and nod his head. Damn it. Why was his body even hotter than before? King of Qi, quickly put me down. I'll just go back to my residence like this. Bait-Ang Zixuan immediately struggled, wanting to jump down from his embrace. Zixian, why do I feel like your figure is not any worse than Xiong'er's? It really feels like a concave and convex shape. Xianyuan Haofei's eyes turned red in the next second. He glared at the boatman and quickly carried Baitang Zixuan into the cabin. Xianyuan Haofei felt his hands and feet heating up, a hot steam rising from his stomachapter. He looked at Baitang Zixuan's fearful eyes and anxiously pulled at his sleeves, and then laughed coldly. Damn it, when did you drug me? He had been through hundreds of women, so how could he not understand what he wanted the most right now? It wasn't me who caused it, it was Feng Jiao who gave it to you. Right? It must have been Feng Jiao who gave it to you. Baitang Zixuan tried her best to defend her so that she could keep her innocence. She hoped that big brother Xingyuan would hurry over and save her. Bullshit. She doesn't like this king's so mu chapter that she would seduce this king. Do you really think this king is a fool? Humph. Xianyuan Haofei took off his outer garment and approachaptered her step by step. The delicate fragrance that belonged to Baitang Zixuan's virgin filled his nose, lingering around nonstop. He hadn't two-chaptered a girl for a while because of flower willow's disease, and now that the effects of the medicine had arrived, how could he endure su-chapter a taste? The closer he got to her, the hotter his whole body became. King of Qi, I am a virgin. You cannot treat me like this, otherwise, my brother will not let you go. She was trembling in a corner as her hands hugged her knees. She wanted to escape, but his altitude was as solid as a steel wall. With this king status, it's more than enough to match-chapter yours. Humph, cut the crap. First, remove the bewitch-chaptering potion from this king. Xianyuan Haofei lifted Baitang Zixuan up into the air like an eagle cat chaptering a chapteric, and with a raise of her hand, she tore apart the thin emerald water veil, the red hair on her chapterist, and the white moon-white underpants on her body. Her beautiful body was exposed to the air, especially the blood-colored palace sand on her arms. King of Qi, don't. Seeing Xianyuan Haofei taking the initiative to take off her clothes, revealing her imposing body, she wailed in fear. You reap what you sow. This king is willing to meet you. It is your good fortune. Fuck. Was it easy for him to have the flower willow disease and to do the most primitive piston exercise with her? Without any foreplay, his imposing body pressed onto Baitang Zixuan's body, and he was already under the control of the bewitch-chaptering medicine. At this moment, he was like a wild beast that was eager to vent. Therefore, the cruise boat was filled with an enchapterenting spring color and was burning hot. Passion. On the main street, Feng Jiao was walking leisurely. Yaoer, let's hurry up and go back. Her clothes are all wet. No matter what, I what-chaptered her grow up, and she's like my little sister. Although the pig's head was still slightly tilted. Why are you in su-chapter a hurry for her? Then go back first. I still want to take a stroll. TSK, she had already calculated the time. She had returned so early. Was she going to what-chapter a play? Was he not afraid of being pierced by needles? Yaoer, is there something you're hiding from me? When Xingyuan asked suspiciously, Xingyuan, I found out that you're also very smart. Baitang Zixuan tried to plot against me, and I think that some kind of bad medicine must have been administered for my glass of red wine. Feng Jiao said calmly, not feeling the slightest bit of worry. Yaoer, why didn't you say so earlier? When Xingyuan looked at her in astonishment, and then he was shocked, and his heart burned with anxiety. Let's go back and save Zixian. She's still a virgin. If the king of Qi wants her like this, Baitang Zixian would definitely behead her. Yaoer, let's quickly go back and stop them. Otherwise, we will be able to get what we want. When Wen Xingyuan thought about how his relationship with the Wen family and the Baitang family had always been good, and how his relationship with Baitang Zixian had always been good, he felt that Zixuan was his older brother's feelings towards his younger sister. I'm not going. What if they already have raw rice to cook? Feng Jiao said coldly. In her opinion, he was a trash that only knew how to be together with a stupid girl. It's better to go and stop them. After all, I watched chaptered Zi Xian grow up. When Xing Yuan frowned, he RA chaptered out and pulled Feng Jiao, asking her to go with him. All right, I'll leave after buying this set of clothes. I hope the king of Qi will show some strength and sleep with Beidang Zixuan soon, haha. Thus, Feng Jiao straightforwardly bought a beautiful purple chapter-a-thon dress. Carrying Feng Jiao, when Xing Yuan flew swiftly all the way, and finally, in the time it took to boil a cup of tea, he flew above the cruise boat. Chapter 77 Part 2 Beidang Ziqian took off his green-colored clothes and draped it over Beidang Zixuan's body with an ashen face. Ziqian, I will definitely take responsibility for what your little sister has done. However, after reporting it to Royal Father, I will come under the betrothal gift again. That's why the matter of status may have to be delayed a little. King of Qi Xianyuan Haofei slowly put on his clothes. Although he was unwilling because of the influence of the Beitang clan, he had no choice but to guarantee that he would be responsible for Beitang Zixuan. Beitang Ziqian roared in anger. He did not place King of Qi Xianyuan Haofei in his eyes at all. It must be the position of King of Qi's main concubine. Otherwise, this patriarch chapter will definitely come to the emperor for this matter and ask for an explanation. This king can consider it. Xianyuan Haofei glared fiercely at the crying Beitang Zixuan. Wasn't he the one who had fallen for her? Was there a need to cry, as if he had done it to a strong woman? This clan's main point is definitely. King of Qi, you should think about it more carefully. This patriarch chapter will take Zi Xian back first. Beitang Ziqian cast a cold glance at Xing Yuan and Feng Jiao. Ziqian, I'm very sorry about your sister. When Xing Yuan felt that he was half responsible and said awkwardly, You don't have to be so kind. Beitang Ziqian coldly roared. The veins on the back of his hand bulged, and his eyes burned with burning fury. Then, Beitang Ziqian glanced at Feng Jiao sinisterly. Zi Xian being humiliated like this was definitely related to her. Feng Jiao's hair stood on end when she saw Beitang Ziqian's gaze, but she still turned her head away with a relaxed expression. The clothes in her hands were merely taken away by Xing Yuan and passed to him. Just did not want it, and threw it into the great jade lake. Brother, it's Feng Jiao who harmed me. She was the one who hurt me. You must avenge me. Beitang Zixuan saw the trace of a smile appear in the corner of Feng Jiao's eyes and was extremely furious and resentful. As a result, she chapter-roped back her emotions and spoke in a low voice as she looked at Feng Jiao with a malicious gaze. Beitang Ziqian held her tightly, a trace of sinister look flashing past his eyes, and his lips raised into a bloodthirsty smile. When Xing Yuan had actually intentionally brought Feng Jiao away from the cruise boat, leaving only Zi Xian at the cruise boat. When Feng Jiao brushed shoulders with her, she clearly felt a trace of hostility from Beitang Ziqian's body. When Xianyuan Haofei saw that when Xing Yuan did not let go of his hand that wrapped around Feng Jiao's waist, his eyes were filled with hatred. King of Qi, it's getting late. I'll send Yaoer back to Prime Minister's mansion first. When Xing Yuan saw his pale and green expression and didn't take it seriously. That's right, I'm tired. I'll be taking my leave now. Feng Jiao gave a shallow smile, and she laughed in her heart. This flower willow poison had already been infected by Beitang Zixuan. Yaoer, wait a moment. This king has something to say to you. Xianyuan Haofei called out to Feng Jiao, his face gloomy, causing Xing Yuan to have a bad premonition. Xing Yuan, wait for me for a moment. King of Qi, and I will talk inside the cabin. Feng Jiao replied with an expression of, Don't worry. Who is she? She was a gold-ranked assassin for the Night Demon. How could she be afraid of an ancient Casanova king? The answer was no. All right. This is inside the cabin. If you have something to say, just say it. No need to beat around the bush. Feng Jiao stood perfectly straight and said indifferently. You already knew that Bait Ang Zishuan placed the bewitch-chaptering medicine in your cup. You purposely let me drink it, right? Xianyuan Haofei asked, his tone not filled with doubt, but certainty. Bait Ang Zishuan tried to ambush me. I didn't expect her to seduce me with some kind of medicine, and I thought it was some ordinary laxative or something like that. Feng Jiao shook her head. She had only guessed it from Bait Ang Zishuan's expression that something was amiss. She did not have the ability of a god operator. In other words, you don't know. Everything was Bait Ang Zishuan's doing. Xianyuan Haofei had only suspected her at first, but now he was even more certain that it was Bait Ang Zishuan who did it, and he felt even more shameless toward her. The main wife of the king of Qi? Bait Ang Ziqian actually pressured him? No, he had to go back and think about it. If he married Bait Ang Zishuan, how much chapter strength would he gain from seizing the throne? Alright, you should go back first. But you must remember one thing. Do not get too close with Wen Xingyuan. He was not as gentle as you imagine him to be, as humble as jade. Xianyuan Haofei lowered his head and whispered into Feng Jiao's ear. Was this a warning? However, she didn't need to. What did she want as man? Not marrying a man. Thank you, King of Qi. I hope that Bait Ang Zishuan can enter the King of Qi's residence. Feng Jiao laughed lightly, then continued. She purposely emphasized on the word love. In the face of Feng Jiao's mocking and ridiculing laughter, Xianyuan Haofei did not mind at all. Instead, he chaptered out and wrapped his arms around her delicate body, whispering in her ear. Yaoer, actually, whenever I sleep with a woman, I always shout your name, fuck. So disgusting. If the former Feng Jiao heard this, she would definitely be happy and immediately throw himself into the arms of this scumbag. But she was not the original Feng Jiao, so she smiled chapter-armingly and said, King of Qi, you are so humorous. Humor my ass. May your whole family be infected with flowering willow disease. Yaoer, King of Qi, did you guys agree to it? When Xingyuan paced back and forth on the deck, he was very worried about King of Qi. After all, he was a romantic person and Yaoer had always been determined to get rid of him, so he had to be on guard against him. Xingyuan, we have already agreed on this. I am taking my leave of King of Qi. Feng Jiao carried her skirt with a smile on her face and walked out gracefully, like a butterfly. When Xingyuan walked forward, grabbed her with his large hands and pulled her into his embrace, then said, King of Qi, thank you for treating us today. I'll treat you to a meal next time, haha. After laughing when Xingyuan and Feng Jiao had already disappeared from the cruise boat. He wanted this woman, but not now. Once he sat in that position, it would be easy even for him to want a beauty, let alone Nan Xiao's #1 beauty, Feng Jiao. Xingyuan, we're here. Feng Jiao stopped him from carrying her off the carriage. Yaoer, what did the King of Qi say to you? You didn't say a word along the way? When Xingyuan raised his hand to stop her from getting off the horse carriage. He did not say anything. Why do you ask me that? Feng Jiao glanced at him with a smile, and said with a clear smile, I'm afraid someone will separate us. When Xingyuan said worriedly as his arms suddenly tightened around her. What are you thinking? We haven't even started properly yet? How did you come to think of splitting up? Feng Jiao laughed after hearing this. Yaoer, are you willing to start with me? He was still worried that she still loved Xianyuan Haofei in her heart. But just now, when Xianyuan Haofei and Bait Ang Zishuan had gotten close to a chapter other, her expression was extremely calm. WHI chapter was truly inconceivable. Of course I'm willing. Because you are a beautiful man, and she is the president of the Appearance Society. Xingyuan, why are you looking at me like that? When Feng Jiao saw his dark and enchanting eyes, she suddenly felt like she was Little Red Riding Hood. Why are you pestering him on the streets today? He couldn't help but ask this question. I didn't get entangled with him. He shamelessly followed us. Did you see that? I brought 2 girls with me. Feng Jiao felt that she was wronged. She had gone out with great difficulty, but now she met this trash who she hated the most. The only thing that made her happy was that she knocked Xianyuan Haofei 3,000 silver. After coming here, she felt that banknotes were the best thing because anything could betray her. Only banknotes would not betray her. Yeah, but I just what-chaptered you, and him talking on the street. My heart is in pain. When Xingyuan suddenly hugged her and gave her a fierce kiss, it was as if he wanted to swallow her chapterary lips whole and then let go of her. Do you feel more comfortable here after kissing me? Feng Xiao stretch-chaptered out her slender jade fingers and drew circles in front of his well-built chapterist with a face full of enchanting smiles. His dark pupils contracted, his Adam's apple slid, and his long, slender hands closed around her dishonest little hands. Her slender figure made Wen Xingyuan, who loved her more, feel his blood expand. He gently sniffed the fragrance of the lotus flowers in her hair, and it was as if he had fallen into a dream. Yaoer, if you continue to tease me like this, I won't be able to guarantee that I'll take you in the carriage. When Wen Xingyuan was too chaptered by her heart immediately started to a chapter. He was a man that was full of vigor and blood. How could he avoid Su chapter, a gentle torture? Not to mention that it was Su chapter, a beautiful and flirtatious woman like her, and one that he wanted to hold in his hands as if it were precious treasures. His voice became chapter-arming and hoarse. Her hair was jet black and bright, just like black silk. The thick black hair accentuated her snow-white skin, making her eyes sparkle. This little woman possessed a bewitching chapter arm. No way, just kiss me. We're at my doorstep right now. Do you have to worry about my dad's face? Feng Xiao playfully hit him on the chapterist. Her voice was so loud that it could cause a person to lose their life. Yaoer, no. I can't control myself, so I want you right now. I really want to imprison you for a lifetime, so that you will never be able to leave me. His voice was so infatuated that it made her heart jump. He said he wanted to imprison her for life? She would never be able to leave him. Feng Xiao was startled. Then her body that had just softened down suddenly froze. Her heart had also gone stiff. She wanted to retort, but his kiss came falling down from the sky, and his body was hanging onto her body with all of his strength. Xingyuan, you can't. He was so sulky. Could it be that he was provoked by King of Qi and the others today? Why was he thinking about doing piston sports with her? Yaoer, you have seduced me time and time again. This is the result of provoking me. When Xingyuan did not consider himself to be a gentleman, thus he held her waist with one hand and quickly took off his belt with the other. Then, with a gentle and mischievous smile, he quickly slid inside her clothes. Chapter 77 Part 3. Is it the Wen family, Lord's carriage? There was a hint of curiosity in the deep voice. The voice was pleasant to hear and very familiar. It was Su Mayan's voice. Crap. Why would he be at the entrance of the Prime Minister's mansion at this hour? Xingyuan, next time then. It's not very convenient now. Feng Xiao quickly pressed a kiss onto Xingyuan's lips, then quickly raised a hand to comb the hair on the head of the carriage before patting her clothes. What a depressing feeling it was for a man under control to suddenly be stopped by his beloved woman at this very moment. Yaoer, don't tell me that you guys are also having an affair in the Death Valley. When Xingyuan thought about the reason that Su Mayan's attitude towards Feng Xiao had chapter-arranged after they left the Death Valley that day, and he had no chapter-choice but to guess it. Stop bullshitting. It's impossible for him and I to be together. Feng Xiao refuted him with a laugh as she spoke softly, while wrapping his white jade belt around his waist. In order to balance the beauties, they had to be enthusiastic about everyone and muster up 120,000 points of energy. The beauties they provoked were not so easy to deal with. Is it really nothing? When Xingyuan ignored the sound of Su Mayan's footsteps getting closer and closer, he started to suspect her and firmly held her small hand. Yes, Xingyuan, believe in me, Feng Xiao said in a spoiled manner, her eyes rippling with light, captivating the soul. Mu Yan, I haven't seen you in a few days. What have you been busy with recently? When Xingyuan glanced at Feng Jiao coldly, then he pulled open the carriage's curtain and asked with a smile. Ever since the two of them parted ways in Autumn Wave Stable, their faces and hearts had become at odds. Su Mayan said as he gave a bland laugh. Recently, there was an iron mine near the Yangming Dark Mountain, so I recently went to the Yangming Dark Mountain, and I just returned. I just happened to bump into you here. Suddenly, his gaze swept across Wen Xingyuan, and he saw Feng Jiao at her side. He thought, could it be that Wen Xingyuan had already captured Yao's heart while he was not in the middle of the battle? With this realization, Su Mayan unconsciously clenched his fists. His knuckles had already turned a ghastly white, and his heart seemed to be immersed in a river of ice, cold as ice. Above his heart, there were a few scars, and those scars were a little painful. He really wanted to charge forward and pull her down from Wen Xingyuan's carriage. He wanted to ask Feng Jiao, "Did you ever have me in your heart?" But he couldn't do that. Now that they were at the entrance of Prime Minister's mansion, he had to give some face to his uncle. "Yao, where did you get back to?" Su Mayan tried his best to appear very calm, so that no one could see the anger in his heart. Just now, I went to eat with Xingyuan, Shenyuan Haofei, and the Beidang siblings. Afterwards, they went for a swim in the lake. She said it simply. With that, she gracefully jumped off the carriage.
So it's like that.
It's been a while since we last met. I miss the porridge that you've personally cooked. Hearing her call out to Wen Xingyuan with a gentle tone, Su Mayan felt extremely uncomfortable in his heart, and so he intentionally said that.
What?
Since when did she personally stew the millet porridge for him? He was truly speaking nonsense. Why did he do this to her? When she saw Wen Xingyuan's angry gaze on her, her little body shivered. Damn it, do they need to be in front of her?
That.
I'm hungry, so I'll be going back first. You two can continue reminiscing about old times. Feng Jiao thought, you guys can start a fight with EA chapter other. She was blind. After she finished speaking, without waiting for Wen Xingyuan and Su Mayan to nod their heads, she immediately used the light skill to climb over the wall and enter Begonia Garden. Wen Xingyuan was shocked. When did Yao learn the light skill? Su Mayan seemed to have too many secrets. She gave him the interest to investigate, and the corner of his mouth raised to form a relieved smile. Yao was so beautiful, anyone with eyes could tell that she was a treasure. I have an appointment with my uncle. I'll be going in first. See you later. Su Mayan's handsome eyebrows curved as he said that. How is this a date with his uncle? See you. When Xingyuan was wise and farsighted, he had already guessed what the other party was thinking a long time ago, but he did not reveal it. When Su Mayan stepped into the gates of Prime Minister Feng's residence, Wen Xingyuan had already told the COA chapterman to take the luxurious carriage back first. He had something to do. He was the same as Feng Jiao, directly jumping over the wall to get in, but unfortunately, he was not familiar with the direction of the begonia garden, so he grabbed hold of a little girl and asked her where the location of the begonia garden was, then found the place. Su Mayan was familiar with the route, so he arrived at begonia garden a step earlier than Wen Xingyuan. First miss, the young Master Su is here. Hongmi saw Su Mayan's figure from afar and reported with a smile. They came really fast. The fan in Feng Jiao's hands almost flew out of her mouth due to anger. She had a premonition that Wen Xingyuan would definitely follow along. Just as expected, Wen Xingyuan actually came. Muyan, didn't you ask your uncle to come over to discuss something? How are you with Yao? Wen Xingyuan intentionally dragged him down. Then doesn't Xingyuan want to go back to the manor? Why are you here at my cousin's begonia garden? Su Mayan did not get angry, but asked with a faint smile on his face. Hey, you are all very idle. Feng Jiao picked up her silk fan, raised it and poked each chapter of them in the chapterist. Why are all of you not finished reminiscing and yet want to talk to my begonia garden? Yaoer, I know you have something delicious here. When Su Mayan was facing Feng Jiao, the undulations of her eyes were so strong that Feng Jiao could not tell how this guy had hated her to death. Yaoer, you know it, I didn't eat Mu chapter in Suha house before, but this time I'm really hungry. Just now, I heard Mu Yen say that your cooking skills were good, so I came here specifically to get food for myself. When Xing Yuan's voice resounded like the spring breeze.
Fuck.
It was this stupid cousin. And so, Feng Jiao glared at Su Mayan coldly, making Su Mayan feel a prickling sensation on his back. Good, 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 then stay and eat. Feng Jiao's smile was extremely moving. She said good 3 times in a row, with a heavy tone. But I will not allow you to eat. How about this, you guys give me some silver notes. I'll just treat it as selling it to you guys to eat. Feng Jiao thought for a bit, then instantly came up with an idea. Even if she didn't extort rechapter people like her, she felt that she had let down the millions of citizens in the Nanshao kingdom.
What?
She was actually not allowed to freeload for food. The two of them looked at a chapter other in dismay. However, they handed over a stack of silver notes straightforwardly. Feng Jiao happily accepted it and put it away without even looking at it, and she even told Ziyun to do it in the end. Ziyun, my lady, I am in a good mood today. Tomorrow I will go to the Southern City God's temple and prepare porridge for all the beggars in the city, for one day. Eldest Miss is really kind. Ziyun and Hongmi both praised with a smile. When Xing Yuan and Su Mayan were stunned for a moment when they heard it, and said at the same time, then I'll go to the south side of the city with you tomorrow to prepare the porridge. As you wish. Feng Jiao smiled as she chaptered the delicacies arrive on the table. This time, although the atmosphere between the three of them was a bit awkward, but it could still be considered harmonious. The two of them walked together in the end, but it was still the same. One walked, the other flipped over the wall. Han Shan Yuan Feng Jilin's residence. Gee, look, is my face a lot whiter now? In 2 days, Blue Festival will arrive. This time, I have a lot of confidence. Feng Jilin sat upright in front of the copper mirror and looked at her own skin. Her skin had become Mu chapter brighter, white and rosy, smooth as cream. Third Miss, do you really want to continue using this item? Ji Yu said disapprovingly when she heard Feng Jilin speak in Su chapter a manner. Of course, she is the #1 beauty of Nanshao Kingdom. I am slightly inferior to her. If I do not use this thing, I am afraid I cannot win against her. Feng Jilin sighed softly. But third Miss, using this kind of rouge and cosmetic powder is not good for your bodies. Jiu thought back to what Grandma Monster had said. It didn't matter if she had mercury mixed in this type of rouge, but if she was to inhale mercury over a long period of time, it didn't matter if she breathed in a little, but if she used 2 Mu chapter of it, she would die suddenly in 3 years. Gu, this is the path that I have chapterized myself. Thank you, remind me. Don't say any more. I just want to become Snow White, with red lips and white teeth. Feng Ziqiang let out a long sigh. She had to persevere on. Her mother was still waiting for her to rescue her. Father was actually so heartless. He even said that mother would never be allowed to step out of the cold autumn courtyard. How cruel. Mother had loved father for so many years, loved him so lowly, loved him so deeply, but in the end, what she received in return was Su chapter a cruel treatment. Her mother was a concubine. She was a concubine. This kind of fate could only be chapter arranged by herself. She believed that since she was only a Shu girl, she could rely on her own cleverness and also help herself to rise to the top. Yes, third Miss. Then I will continue to let that person continue to create makeup that will make you even more beautiful. Ji Yu lowered her eyes, feeling pity for a girl like her. She was too chapter-reaming and did not get anything in the end. The day before Blue Festival, Feng Jiao made a trip to Tsuha House. Tao Zhixian was already waiting for her in the gorgeous study room. Eldest miss, you're here. Tomorrow is Blue Festival. Do you have any clothes and accessories for the day? Tao Zhixian asked in concern. Feng Jiao shook her head lightly. These few days, she had been busy designing delicious food menus or meeting beauties, staying at restaurants, strolling around the streets, and practicing martial arts before going to bed. She had been extremely busy, yet she did not think of buying clothes for herself to participate in the Blue Festival. Young miss, you are so careless. However, you don't have to worry about that. There are new young women's clothes here, and I reckon that there's only this one in the entire Nanshao. If you wear it tomorrow, you will definitely be able to spread the fame of our Tsuha house. Ha ha ha, Uncle Xian, look at what you're saying. Feng Jiao laughed. Eldest miss, I heard you went to prepare the porridge yesterday. Is that true? Tao Zhixian asked. Yeah, there are. So many beggars have come. Feng Xiao carefully recalled. All of them are from the beggar gang, right? I heard that the old sect master of the beggar gang is dead, and that the new sect master is too honest to meddle, so when the beggars heard that you were cooking porridge, they all came. Tao Zhixian seemed to want to know everything as he explained the situation that he understood. That's right. Young miss, your friend young Masterly disappeared this morning. That personal attendant also disappeared. However, he left a letter for you. Take a look. Feng Jiao accepted it. She only saw that Yu Bai's paper only had a drawing of a pear flower, and not a single word was written there. When she saw it, her first thought was that she was especially worried. Could it be something important? Uncle Xian, what has happened to young Masterly in the past few days? Feng Jiao frowned and asked. Chapter 78, Part 1, What's Wrong? Tao Zhixian repeated his sentence, and then said with focus, Young Nobly is not abnormal. The day before, that servant called Ban Xia went out 3 times a day, and the rest are normal. It looks like he's in a hurry. Forget it. Let's not bring him up. The corner of Feng Jiao's mouth curled up slightly. Let me see what kind of clothes make you so full of praise. Feng Jiao thought of what he had just said about the entire Nanshao. Tao Zhixian then opened the clasp of a mahogany box embedded with a red emerald. After a pop sound, a light fragrance wafted into her nose. There's the smell of flowers, Uncle Xian. Why does this clothes look like it was made of many petals? It looks very special. Feng Jiao laughed. 7 days ago, this was done by a subordinate secretly ordering the best embroidery lady of the Nanshao to soak the nectar of the Snow Smoke brand chapter that had smoked the chapterary blossoms for 3 days and 3 nights without rest. See if you ever liked it. Tao Zhixian asked with a smile. Thank you, Uncle Xian. You must be considerate. I will definitely perform well in the Blue Festival. Feng Jiao knew that in this space and time, not only were snowy yarn precious and rarer, they were also light and elegant, thin like a cicada's wing. It was even more rare to piece together snowy gauze into the shape of a rose, and was so exquisite that it made her gasp in admiration. Of course, our Tsuha house will depend on you to open the signboard. Oh, right. There are a lot of noble people in Blue Festival. If you use your true appearance, I am afraid that it will bring you trouble. Do you want me to help you disguise yourself? Tao Zhixian remembered that she was the young miss of the Prime Minister's mansion, and he even heard the rumors of her being afflicted with an evil disease. Disguise? When she was still Meishi, she was already an expert in disguise. Why would she need to trouble the Uncle Xian? No need. I can do it myself. Feng Xiao smiled confidently. First miss, do you know if the Blue Festival has set up a new segment this time? Tao Zhixian asked with a smile. I haven't, please tell me. Feng Jiao shook her head lightly. It is said that the Helan family, WHI chapter, holds the Blue Festival, will have their young master, Helan Qi, appear for the first time in the Blue Festival this time. And also said that whoever can make this year's jade-colored blood or chaptered blossom can also be the candidate to be their young master's fiancé. Tao Zhixian two-chaptered his beard and laughed. Jade-colored blood or chaptered? What flower is that? Feng Jiao was curious. According to her idea, this green blood or chapterage should be a type of flower, right? It said that the precious jade from Mount Kunlun was used to make flower pots. They contain blood or chaptered seeds, and normally, only the blood of a virgin girl can make them bloom. Usually, chapter-children are used to protect them, and outsiders are not allowed to two-chapter them.
No, he said.
Oh, none of this had anything to do with her, as she had never thought of marriage. Furthermore, she was no longer a virgin, so she could only allow the Helan family to do whatever they wanted with her. A broken flower determines a marriage. Ridiculous. Miss, aren't you interested? The Helan family is the most ancient and mysterious family in the Four Kingdoms. It is said that they are as rechapter as kingdoms, have a long lifespan, and are all experts in martial arts. Furthermore, their young master is very handsome, so if you marry their young master, you won't suffer any losses. Tao Zhixian naturally did not know what Feng Jiao was thinking, but for her sake, he smiled and said, Uncle Xian, I don't want to get married at the current stage. Feng Jiao shook her head. She would know if he was handsome or not tomorrow. If it was a pretty boy, she would find a way to get him onto the bed, then kick him away. Eldest miss, you're not young anymore. After the new year, she was nearing 17, yet she still didn't want to get married? Uncle Xian, about my marriage, don't worry about it like my father did. I'm not in a hurry myself. What are you in a hurry for? Why don't you think about how to spread the wealth of our Tsuha house throughout the countries? Feng Jiao laughed while covering her mouth. Okay, then tomorrow at Blue Festival, take note. Tao Zhixian nodded and smiled. What is it? Have all the young talents of the four great empires come to participate in the Blue Festival this time? Feng Jiao asked. Almost all of them will be here. Even the imperial family of Nan Shao Kingdom will be attending. This is a grand annual gathering. Who knows if the emperor will accept some concubines back from the Blue Festival? Tao Zhixian ridiculed.
What?
You mean the old emperor will be there too? Fuck, then I should put on a more ordinary appearance. If I can't get the old emperor's attention and ban her from entering the palace forever, wouldn't that be quite tragic? That's right. Last year, the old emperor brought back a beauty from the Blue Festival, and he even bestowed her with the title of Noble Person. Tao Zhixian tilted his head as if lost in thought, and spoke slowly. It's a pity that that woman has died a tragic death. It's only been a year, yet she has passed away amidst the smoke of the harem. Feng Jiao sighed. Uncle Xian, do you think that my light skill has improved a lot? How can it be called progress? This is simply amazing. Young miss, you truly have talent. I believe that you will be able to learn these martial arts manuals very soon. Tao Zhixian laughed in satisfaction, thinking, why would her daughter be stupid? I also hope that I can become a martial arts master as soon as possible. In the future, she would be able to smoothly eat the beautiful guy's food. As Su chapter, it was as if a flower had bloomed on her smiling face. First, miss, let's go to Blue Festival and hope that you can become the chapter champion. The weather was still score-chaptering hot, but because there was a light drizzle from last night, there was a hint of coolness to the flowers and trees. In the morning, the relatively warm and bright sunlight pierced through the gaps between the leaves and scattered all over the begonia garden. Feng Jiao lazily laid on the imperial concubine's soft chapter air near the window, basking in the sun. Under the sunlight, her fair skin was somewhat transparent and emitted a faint luster, as if it was coated with a layer of gold that was dazzling to the eye. In this quiet and gentle summer morning, she quietly watch-chaptered the beautiful blossoming of the crabapple blossoms in the courtyard. She felt the warmth of the morning sun on her face as she held thee in her slender and white hands. The sun shone through the clouds, and the flowers and trees in the yard were brimming with vitality. It was as if a faint layer of golden light had been cast on the emerald pink leaves, and the dew on the petals were suffused with golden light, adding to the chapter arm of the summer yard. Big Miss, today is Blue Festival. Why aren't you carefully dressing up to join in the fun? Zian asked with a smile. You also know that I'm suffering from an illness, so how can I go? Forget it. Let father bring Feng Jilin to participate in the competition. I'll stay here to read some books and wait for me to sleep. Feng Jiao said while grinning, his face showing that she did not care. What was she going to do now? When all those people had arrived, she would appear on stage again, and that would be interesting. Eldest Miss, are you really not going? Hongmi brought over a stack of soft and tender yellow osmanthus cake for her and asked with a smile. Of course, let our Prime Minister's mansion's third young miss show off. Feng Xiao immediately turned her body, extended her slender jade hand, and picked up a osmanthus cake to eat. Eldest Miss, according to the girls who served third miss, not only did her skin become a lot whiter, but her face also became redder. She seemed to have become a lot more beautiful. I wonder what kind of precious rouge and cosmetic powder she used? Hongmi smiled and explained to her the situation in Feng Jilin's courtyard. Oh, is their Su chapter an interesting thing? Feng Jiao smiled. It turned out that she had the help of an expert behind her little sister. Young miss, are you sure you don't want to go and take a look? This time, Blue Festival has heard that the young master of the Heelan family will also come. Ziyun was still trying to persuade her. All right, stop bothering me one by one. Wear your own clothes and head over to the Great Jade Lake area to join in the fun. Miss, let me go back to my room to sleep first. Feng Jiao waved her hand, signaling to them that they can leave. Fine. Eldest Miss, what about afternoon chapters? Ziyun was still worried about her, so she asked. Yes, Eldest Mississippi. If we go out, what will happen to your Lewin chapter? Furthermore, you don't get used to eating hero prison cooked by the cooks of the Prime Minister's mansion's dining hall. Hongmi had a worried look. Have you forgotten how Mu chapter better my culinary skills are than yours? Feng Jiao smiled gently. Sister Ziyun, if Eldest Miss doesn't wanna, then let's go to the Great Jade Lake to join in the fun, Hongmi said to Ziyun with a smile. Ziyun nodded, and then walked out of Begonia Garden with Hongmi. When Feng Jiao saw that they had all left, and she was the only one left in the Begonia Garden in her palace, she immediately put away the secret arts of pleasure and walked in front of the bronze mirror to play with some of the rouge she had created. She lightly rubbed her face against the mirror and slowly fainted. Under her thin and long eyebrows, her clear eyes were filled with gentleness, chapter arm, and elegance. She withdrew from the faint silver light. The light breeze blew up a few strands of her silky black hair. In response to her snow-white face, it was light and natural. That's enough. I hope the old emperor doesn't fall for me. After Feng Jiao finished organizing her things, she talked to himself, then casually put on a set of clothes and rushed towards the Tsuha house. Tsuha house, are you really the eldest miss? Tao Zhixian looked at Feng Jiao, who had chapter-arranged his appearance, and a look of astonishment flashed past his eyes. This is the same as true face. The appearance chapter-arranging chapternique of the eldest miss is really great. Haven't you already made up your mind? Feng Jiao laughed. Eldest miss, I only knew it was you when I heard your voice. If you don't, I really won't be able to tell. Oh, right. Do you need to take the voice chapter-arranging pill later? Tao Zhixian also laughed. I'm not eating that pill. I know how to use my mouth. Feng Jiao laughed. In the modern world, She had learnt this tea chapternique for a long time, and it could be said that she had mastered it completely. Later on, she would use the chapter-arming voice of the first miss of the Night Demon. Her voice could be easily imitated. It could even be said to be extremely chapter-arming and sweet to the extreme. Suddenly, Tao Jixian clapped 3 times, and 4 white-clothed female servants walked over. All of them were extremely beautiful. With light footsteps, they had already approached Feng Jiao. Uncle Xian, they are? Feng Jiao did not understand why Tao Jixian had called the 4 women out. The little girl who will carry the palanquin later will also protect you. Her big Miss Light skill is not bad, but her martial arts are still considered as a rookie. Alright, thank you Uncle Xian. Feng Jiao was becoming more and more curious about this Tsuha house, but she still had a sweet smile on her face. The things that you had me prepare earlier, I have put them all together with my clothes. And then I'll go to the Great Jade Lake to join in the fun after I chapter arrange my clothes. Chapter end. Chapter 78 Part 2 The annual Blue Festival was held at the Great Jade Lake. WHI chapter was surrounded by the rippling waves and the fragrance of lotus flowers. At this moment, the Great Jade Lake was extremely lively. On the surface of the lake in the distance, many exquisite cruise boats were shuttling back and forth within the Jade Lotus. There were beautiful women singing and dancing on the strings of the cruise boat. On every cruise boat, there was a master raising a beautiful chapterids. The sun was blazing like fire, but it did not lessen the joy of celebration. The origin of the Blue Festival could be traced back to 300 years ago. An emperor loved chapterids. One day he was too busy with politics, and the unit chapter forgot to move the chapterids from the cloister. Unfortunately, the wind and rain that night killed the delicate chapterids. After the emperor found out, he did not eat nor sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. He even ignored the imperial government and did not go to the imperial harem, only hugging the brand chapters of the chapterids in his arms. Finally, when he was too weak, he coughed up blood, and the blood dripped onto the brand chapters of the chapterids. The reborn chapterid seemed to have a spirit of its own. As long as the emperor went to a concubine's chapter amber, the chapterid would wither. Just like this, the emperor who loved Lan Chapterengzi no longer went to visit the concubine of the imperial harem. He ate and stayed with the chapterid pot, and for the sake of his favorite chapterid, he even got someone to make a blue festival and chapteros the Heelan family as the eternal organizer. After Feng Jiao heard about the origins of the blue festival, he scoffed. The emperor actually didn't sleep with a woman because of a pot of flowers. Wasn't he an idiot? Eldest miss, the Great Jade Lake is right in front of us. We can get off the palanquin now. She was the oldest of the 4, arranged by age. The other 3 were Muyu, and Muyen. All right, then get off the palanquin. Feng Jiao promised. She had wanted to get off long ago. If she did not, she would have fallen asleep again. The Blue Festival was hosting a banquet to welcome guests from all 4 directions in the largest village of Ludingshan near the Great Jade Lake. Anyone who could enter the manor were all members of influential families or noble sons of noble families, or even princes of other countries. As the representative of the Tsuha house, Feng Jiao naturally received the invitation letter from the Heelan family. Those without the invitation could only watch chapter the performance by the Great Jade Lake. It could be said that they wanted to join in on the fun. It was really a singing and dancing, a play and singing, making the Blue Festival extremely lively. Those aristocratic young ladies were dressed up beautifully, like the last one. They were dressed elegantly. Under the escort of the maidservants, they entered the manor of Lu Dingshan, who was what chaptering exclaimed and thought that this crappy festival was being played out like a talent show. When Mu Jin handed over the invitation letter to the servant guarding the entrance, that servant walked over with a beaming smile and greeted respectfully. "May I ask if this is Tsuha House's Miss Chu?" Shrimp? Miss Chu? Was this a new identity that the Uncle Xian helped her get? As a result, Feng Xiao smiled and nodded her head. She slowly raised her eyes and smiled. The sunlight shining on her curved lips made her look like a fairy. The attendant was extremely astonished. Su chapter, an ordinary face and a light smile, was already so captivating and chapter-arming. That's right, she's the young miss of our Chu family. Mu Jin laughed. "Miss Beidang, please come in." The waiter laughed as he saw the pink muslin sedan behind them. "Miss Beidang? Could it be that Beidang Zixuan also came?" Feng Xiao turned her head. Wasn't that Beidang Zixuan? Carried by her two little girls. When Beidang Zixuan saw the disguised Feng Xiao, a trace of jealousy flashed across the bottom of her eyes. She couldn't help but feel inferior in her heart. It was all because of that slut, causing her to lose her virginity. Although this woman's looks weren't good, the purity emitted from her bones made her go crazy with envy. She was dressed in beautiful fiery red robes, and her carefully drawn makeup looked incredibly tacky under the contrast of Feng Xiao's snow-white dress. At this time, 3 profound spirit palanquins stopped beside them. They were the current patriarch chapters of the 3 families that were ranked in the Nanshao kingdom. Feng Xiao laughed lightly and continued to stare at Wen Xingyuan. Situ Yele and the others, look, none of them realized that the beautiful lady in front of them was actually the girl that they loved dearly. Wen Xingyuan's thoughts were not here in the slightest. He did not know that the elegant and graceful beauty in front of him was actually the woman at the tip of his heart. Situ Yele only felt that this woman's figure was extremely similar to Feng Xiao, but it was a pity that her face was too different. Hence, he looked away and no longer looked at Feng Xiao, who had chapter-arranged her appearance. But Beidang Ziqian was different. He looked back and thought, Su chapter of fresh beauty, how come he had never seen her before? Her hair was as black as ink, her skin was as white as snow, and her rouge was as red. Her pair of black eyes were as clear as crystal, and her eyes were brilliant. Feng Xiao felt that it was very fun to tease Beidang Ziqian, so she gave him a flirtatious glance. Then, under the escort of the servant girls, she walked past him without looking back, leaving behind a very alluring fragrance. "Big brother, you recovered." Beidang Zixuan walked in front of Beidang Ziqian and unhappily waved 2 of his jade-like fingers in front of his eyes. Where is she? Although that girl wasn't considered a devastatingly beautiful woman, she could still be considered a delicate and pretty girl. Thus, he raised his eyes and asked. He went in, Beidang Zixuan said indifferently. Ever since that day at the cruise boat, when she had lost her virginity, her expression had chapter-ranged from anger, resentment, to her current tranquility. During this time, she did not know how many tears she had shed. Ziqian, Xingyuan, let's go in as well. Situ Yele didn't understand why Beidang Ziqian and Wen Xingyuan could only nod and smile after meeting Ye chapter other. Unlike the usual warm relations, this was why he was the only one mediating. Wen Xingyuan smiled like the spring breeze, thinking that if he didn't see Yaoa later, he would go to her begonia garden to see her. Sigh, the heart, the heart. Beidang Ziqian immediately nodded when he saw Situ Yele urging him on, and quickly followed in their footsteps. The area of the Lu Ding Mountain Manor was vast, with winding corridors, winding paths, pavilions and pavilions, exotic flowers and herbs, 5 steps into Ye chapter pavilion, 10 steps into Ye chapter pavilion. The art of sculpting was exquisite, magnificent, and extraordinary. The trees were thick, with 100 flowers blooming around them. Kai Dai was dancing in the air, looking like a fairyland on earth. After passing through the 9 winding corridors, what appeared before them was an azure artificial lake. The Taihu stone was built into a fan-shaped pavilion in the middle of the lake. A cool breeze caressed its surface. There were not only white and pink lotus flowers, but also colorful lotus flowers, black lotus flowers, and gold-edged lotus flowers. There were also a lot of water or chapterids growing in the lake, and those water or chapterids were all white, with petals shaped like butterflies, fluttering like butterflies in the wind of the lake. WI chapter were indescribably beautiful. At this moment, the lotus garden looked like a modern version of the outdoor buffet scene. Everyone was smiling, drinking, and laughing merrily. There were dozens of long tables filled with delicious delicacies, fine wine, fresh fruits, and servants, all dressed up and standing respectfully on both sides, providing the best services to the young masters, princes, and descendants of famous families and beauties participating in the Blue Festival's grand feast. Feng Jiao was brought to the side of a purple butterfly or chapterid by a girl who specially welcomed him. "Miss, look, these flowers really look like real butterflies," Mu Yan said with a smile. "Well, look, there are real butterflies here." When Feng Jiao saw those colorful butterflies, she couldn't help but extend her delicate hand, allowing the beautiful little butterfly to rest on her slender fingers. Her lips curved upwards, revealing a pure smile and praise. At this moment, from the corridor of the 9 rhythm corridor, Heloise happened to see Su chapter a beautiful scenery. She smiled like the bright moon, and her eyes were as clear and elegant as the white clouds in the blue sky. The pure smile on her face was untainted by any impurities and was as pure and beautiful as the snow lotus at the peak of the mountain. Although she was delicate and pretty, the gentleness exuded from her bones was very similar to the one he had in his heart. However, he had already sent people to ask, because the direct daughter of the Prime Minister Feng was sick in bed. She did not come to attend the feast in the Blue Festival. He was not in a good mood at first, but after hearing this girl's smile that was as bright as snow, it shocked him. No, he only liked her. Even though she said she was a hollow bamboo, he still loved her deeply and could not extricate her from his ultimate belief. Right now, she had promised to attend the Blue Festival's grand feast because he hoped to see her again. He also hoped that she would be able to compete in sheen and painting competitions and stand at the top. He did not want to marry a girl that he did not love. He only loved her. He never knew that there was actually a girl in this world that had the same kind of laughter as her. Although her facial features were not as chapter-arming as hers, nor as beautiful as a country, his mood could not help but improve when he saw how happy she was. Feng Jiao's eyes instantly locked onto the colorful wings of the butterfly. As she looked, she laughed, as if the people around her could not affect her at all. After staring at the butterfly for a while, she noticed a pair of attentive eyes staring at her from a short distance away. She raised her head slowly, and when she looked carefully, she saw Helan Chi standing outside the sea of flowers. He had a gold-plated jade crown on his head, a gold mask on his face, and was dressed in an icy blue brocade robe embroidered with a few or chapterids. WI chapter were serpentine and winding like ripples in the river. There was a faint fragrance of or chapterids on his body, and at his waist was a gold-edged belt with purple jade on it. His shiny black hair had a faint luster to it, and there was a hint of loneliness and indifference in it. His neck was white like ivory, and his every movement and gesture was graceful and dignified. Su chapter, a mysterious man. Why was he wearing a golden mask? But who was he? Just as Feng Jiao wanted to go up and ask him, she saw the man wearing the gold mask turn around and leave. "Miss Chu." Beit Ang Ziqian waved the black silk fan and walked over. "Who are you?" Feng Jiao was very curious. Why wasn't this fellow protecting his precious sister, and why was he here in front of her? "The current patriarch chapter of the Nanshao's third family, Beit Ang Ziqian. What is your name?" Baiteng Ziqian belonged to the action faction, and he had also heard that, just now, he found out that this fresh and beautiful woman was the master of the Tsuha house and had a rechapter dowry. From the looks of it, she could be considered to be worthy of Baiteng Ziqian, although he had an engagement with the big miss of the Plum Villa, Fu Shuiyan, but in his opinion, he could marry Fu Shuiyan and even marry Miss Chu as his wife. Thus, after having thought of this, he elegantly rushed over. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.